It is 10 a.m. Good morning from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Lucas Panzica. As we await an official announcement from the Titans about Robert Saleh being named the next head coach, the wait for offensive coordinator candidate Brian Daboll's next move continues as he is meeting with Bills decision makers today about the head coaching position in Buffalo. MVP finalists have been named in the NFL. They are Matthew Stafford, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, and Christian McCaffrey. The MVP will be announced at NFL Honors during Super Bowl week. And the Nashville Predators host the Ottawa Senators tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home. For the Titans and Vols, this is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We're happy to have you on this Thursday. We have Nate Washington later in the show. We'll get his reaction to the hiring of Robert Saleh. By the way, I expect that to be made official today. I don't know at what point they will make that official today, but there should be some level of team announcement forthcoming to keep you from wringing your hands any further as far as a deal being done rather than put you through the Harbaugh Giants 4-day wait type of situation. We will await what the Titans put out officially later today. The Robert Saleh press conference we do not expect until next week for a couple of different reasons. He had a previously scheduled family commitment that he is attending to before he can be officially announced as the Titans head coach, and he would like his family to be in attendance. So there was a little bit of a conflict there that is the only reason that has been delayed in some form or fashion. So nothing to fret about at this point in time other than who's going to be your OC, because we are also on Daboll watch as we await his in-person interview with the Buffalo Bills to conclude. We know his preference is to be the Bills head coach if that option is available to him. And if not, the expectation still is that he would become the Titans offensive coordinator after that. So 615-737-1045 is the number if you would like to participate. You may do so via the phone lines. F&M Bank Chat, also open for business. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, where people like Russell greet us with, can someone clarify, was Matt Nagy fired as Chiefs offensive coordinator, or did he leave, or just wasn't extended? Did you see this from I can't remember which insider put it out yesterday, so I want to make sure I'm giving proper credit, but the Chiefs just acted as if Matt Nagy was going to get a head coaching job. And so they sought out Eric Bieniemy to replace him, assuming that Matt Nagy would not be available to return to the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I don't know that he is interviewing or even if he's been brought up as a candidate for any other head coaching position other than here, where he was obviously a finalist. His name has popped up for the Eagles offensive coordinator position, but yeah, he didn't really get fired as much as his key card just stopped working.
Do you think the Chiefs also thought he was going to get the Titans job?
I don't know. That was interesting because, like I said, he was not a candidate anywhere else. And so this report that, well, they expect him to be a head coach, so they're moving on, is interesting to me.
There's just a lot of different layers to this. And again, we may never get an honest, straightforward answer about, like, all right, how close actually was it? You know, like, all these, there are a variety of different indicators that would say that that was very much on a collision course for Matt Nagy to be the next head coach of the Titans. And maybe it's just, you know, what's the word? A coincidence that they expected him to get a head coaching job, and as of right now, he has not. It's also one of those situations where his contract did expire, so he didn't have to be fired. It's just kind of like Mike McCarthy with the Cowboys, where they're like, no, it's okay. We'll let the contract expire, and we will allow you to pursue other opportunities. And we can't wait around for our offensive coordinator, so let's just go get Eric Bieniemy, who our entire staff and roster knows, and we'll put that thing back together.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes' best years have come with the tandem of Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Now, I don't know how much you assign to Matt Nagy in regards to the Chiefs' somewhat decline on offense over the last couple of years, especially this year. But he did a nice job in Chicago, Bieniemy, as the running backs coach. think they got a lot of good play out of their two backs all season.
Have you seen the level of spiraling that's happening in Philadelphia?
About the offensive coordinator job.
Because Daboll apparently passed on the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator job. I saw some level of Giants Twitter getting a hold of that, maybe just to rib the Philadelphia Eagles for, obvious divisional rival purposes, but basically saying that Daboll showing significantly more interested in the Titans offensive coordinator job than the Eagles offensive coordinator job speaks to the level of dysfunction going on right now in Philadelphia.
I would say it does. That team is the defending Super Bowl champion with the quarterback that he has worked with in the past and some pretty high-level talent on offense there. So for him to pass that up and say, no, if I don't get a head coaching position, I'd rather go work with the rookie in the blank slate that is the Titans offense, I think would be cause for concern as an Eagles fan.
So
Mike McDaniel also passed it up.
The Eagles job.
Yeah, Eagles OC.
Is it a bad job?
I don't.
How could you?
It's a tenuous job.
Sure, and maybe it's only for there's no stability in it, right? Because you're just assuming at a certain point that
it's an uncertain
Philadelphia
job.
will come for you, and your house will be egged, and you'll be run out of town, and all these different things.
It's a boom or bust job, I would say.
Ted Nguyen, who does he work for?
The Athletic.
The Athletic said it way smarter than I think any of us could say it. He highlighted the lack of success with the tush push after Jason Kelsey's retirement, and that being a detriment to the offense, potentially losing A.J. Brown or his involvement in the offense. Maybe you lose his interest as being declining factors of why this job would be thought of as less than.
You doing okay back there, buddy?
I'm struggling.
I know.
I'm struggling.
We appreciate your efforts today.
I think we found out what was wrong with me, which is kind of a positive because I was kind of sad I wasn't going to be able to eat at that place I ate at because it was good.
Well, what kind of positive are we talking about? What kind of positive test have you yielded? Or has the good doctor Lucas Panzica diagnosed you via WebMD?
Yes. He prescribed me some pastini and told me that it wasn't, in fact, food poisoning. It was probably the norovirus, or how do you say it?
Norovirus. I think Robert was stricken with norovirus last weekend.
Which, based on my limited understanding of the norovirus, somebody handled poop and then handled your food?
That's the way it sounds like.
That's what Wikipedia says. So I brought him a box of pastini, and I said, don't do it all in one place.
The idea of
please
Lucas,
handle responsibly.
Lucas and all, don't do it all in one place. The idea of Lucas in a lab coat handing out boxes of pasta as prescriptions is excellent.
I'm ready for Barilla to sponsor me at any moment.
It's not Berea?
No, it's not Berea. Come on.
Why
we're not speaking Spanish here.
I was about to say, Spanish turns the double L into a Y, not Italian.
Okay, but Italian, we were talking about tutto di Gio yesterday.
What did you just try to grunt out?
I don't want to do this with you. I don't want to do this with you.
You say it.
First of all, we're giving free shout-outs here left and right.
You're right. I've distracted us so much. I'm going to go back here to my little cave.
Just turn the lights off, take a nap. It's going to be okay.
Take a nap right here.
All you have to do is... All you have to do is
I take a nap.
The only thing that you have to do today is make sure that Nate Washington is functional on Zoom and unmuted himself.
And Greg Cosell, next segment.
Yes, we will have some Greg Cosell analysis on coaching hires, Mike McDaniel with the Chargers, potentially Brian Daboll. Greg and I taped that knowing full well that Brian Daboll may or may not be the offensive coordinator of the Titans at this point in time. So it was worth talking about, at least from a 1,000-foot view perspective.
I doubt we know about the Bills' job here in the next couple days. They are scheduling, Schefter just dropped this, they're interviewing Jags OC Grant Udinski for the head coaching position on Sunday.
29-year-old.
Yeah, very young. They just talked to Joe Brady yesterday, and they talked to Daboll today. Who do Bills fans want? If you're a Bills fan, who do you want out of, let's say, those three guys? They've talked to Anthony Lynn as well, the former Chargers coach.
It's got to be Daboll.
Right? That feels like best case if you're a Bills fan.
They don't. Again, nobody likes their offensive coordinator unless you're a team whose offensive coordinator is getting ready to get hired away for a head coaching gig, right?
I don't know if Udinski would be a head coach that calls plays, but obviously Liam Cohen is the play caller down in Jacksonville. Joe Brady, you have that continuity to carry right over with Josh Allen, but obviously you got the best out of Josh Allen with Daboll, and he has head coaching experience. That does feel like best case if you are a Buffalo Bills fan.
I would imagine so. But again, we have Bills fans in the audience, 615-737-1045 if you want to chime in. The MVP finalists, Coach of the Year finalists, AP Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year finalists have also been announced. Robert, you were in a meeting this morning when Lucas and I were on the phone getting ready for the show. We do have the AP finalists, PFWA, the Pro Football Writers of America, the union that all of us who cover teams as beat reporters, and I'm sure national reporters are a part of it too. But they have us vote on those end-of-season awards as well. I think I kind of want to have you roast my ballot if you're feeling up to it, because I did submit my ballot this year.
Okay, I'm down with that.
Okay. I think
Is Josh Allen on that ballot?
No, Josh Allen is not on that ballot.
Okay, well then you might get by scot-free, dude.
He is for biggest playoff disappointment.
If that's
a ballot, I would love to be a submitter.
Yeah, so maybe later in the we could probably get you unionized as a part of the PFWA for just funsies. Why not? But we'll have my ballot later, and Robert can go through all the things that I did right and what I did wrong on my voting this year. Coming up next, though, Greg Cosell of NFL Films. We will play you a portion of this morning's podcast, of course, that is available for you on YouTube and in your favorite podcast app, where we talk about the conference championships, of course, because there's a lot of important football games, 2 important football games to decide who goes to the Super Bowl this weekend, but also on all the coaching movement. And we will give you a little bit of taste of that coming up next. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. If you are fearing the winter weather, no better way to warm up. A little bit of hot chicken. All their Middle Tennessee locations open in, about 41 minutes from now. 615-737-1045 is the number if you'd like to participate. You're going to hear some Greg Cosell analysis on the hiring of Robert Saleh, the potential of Brian Daboll with Cam Ward, and some other tidbits that are worth paying attention to. We will get into conference championship weekend here in just a little while as well. We can take your phone calls in the meantime. Chuck is in Gallatin. Hey, Chuck.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fascinating.
I wish you would have left him there.
Just that.
Or we could just
background.
periodically check on him to see if he comes back.
That happens very often.
I guarantee you he's going to call back and be like, hey, sorry, I was sitting on my phone to enjoy the vibrator or something, and he just didn't pick up.
So, Greg Cosell.
I am all in favor of not giving people second chances if they botch their first call-in. Yes? We are in favor of that? Okay, very good.
Yeah, not on the same day.
All right, let's hear a little bit of Greg Cosell analysis on the hiring of Robert Saleh and what it means for Cam Ward from today's episode of The Install. Welcome to The Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. We got conference championships on the horizon. We've got a few head coaching hires that have been named. Greg, one such hire that we expect to be announced officially by the team later this afternoon, but is of course already been reported on, is Robert Saleh going to be the next head coach let's cut our of mics the Tennessee Titans. And there's a couple of different layers to that, but of course the thing that you have been talking about on this podcast, and I'm sure in other places as well these past few weeks, is that everything that this organization does moving forward has to be done in service of Cam Ward. Robert Saleh is an interesting figure here, and of course we're awaiting staff hires to really determine how much sense this is going to make.
Yeah, and it's really hard to know. Look, people, I'm sure you've probably been talking about it all week on your radio show, and I'm sure there's been varying opinions. I'm sure some people think it's good. Some people probably think it's horrible. That's just the nature of fandom. You know, it's almost impossible to know. You'd have to really know Robert Saleh. Obviously, when coaches interview to become a head coach, they make a lengthy presentation about how they see the entire organization, beginning with everything, basically. But obviously, the nature of the coaching staff is a big deal. How they go about dealing with the quarterback, and particularly a young quarterback, that becomes a big deal. So obviously, he checked all those boxes. We're not in those meetings, so I'm not going to sit here and say it's good or bad because we don't know that. Robert, I can tell you as a coach, as a defensive coach, because that's what we know for the most part about Saleh. Yes, he was a head coach, briefly before, but as a defensive coach, he's highly respected. He's thought of to be very, very good. As a head coach, he was put in a tough spot with the Jets. His defense there was very good, and he called it. And offensively, they really didn't have a quarterback, so it becomes hard to really gauge that. And he's not the one who's putting the offense together anyway. So, there's been a lot of coaches, by the way, who've not done well in their first time around and done better their second time around. Whether that happens here, no one knows. But I think it's a little early to make any judgment, good or bad. Obviously, they went through the process, and they felt he checked all the boxes. Now we have to wait and see. But there's no question that the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach are absolutely critical to what goes on going forward.
Yeah, just a quick clarification, Greg. It's our understanding that he did not call the defense in New York, but his plan is to call the defense.
Oh, right. You're right. Because they had Ulbrich, I believe.
Tennessee.
Yeah, they had Ulbrich. That's right.
Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, who's now in Atlanta, obviously. Also
and did actually.
Yeah.
And who did a good job this past year in Atlanta, actually. So, right. You're right. He did not call the defense. And I don't know if he'll call the defense here. Has that been talked about?
Yeah, it was reported by Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network that his intention is to call the defense as the Titans head coach.
Well, if that's the case, then that makes the OC and the quarterback coach even more important, because during the week, while he's not going to be unaware of what they're doing offensively, he's got to put together a whole defensive game plan and spend all that time with the defense. So it's almost as if you have a separate deal. You have a head coach who's the defensive coach, and then you're going to have an offensive coordinator and a quarterback coach, and and others. They're not the only two offensive coaches, obviously, but that's essentially what it's going to be. So it makes that hire really important, because the offensive coordinator is pretty much going to run the show on offense.
Yeah, it's kind of the inverse of what we had here previously with Brian Callahan and Denard Wilson.
Yep.
So we will see what becomes of Robert Saleh, and we await again, they're going to announce him later today as we tape this on a Thursday morning, on a press conference is scheduled for next week, is my understanding. So the other domino, to your point, is the offensive coordinator. Obviously, there are many other staff hires to be made. Anytime you have a new head coach in place, the thing that we are waiting on here in Tennessee that may, but maybe by the time you hear this podcast, a decision has been made one way or the other. Brian Daboll is interviewing to be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. Diana Rossini, our friend at The Athletic, reported that if Brian Daboll does not get the head coach job for the Bills, which is his preference, the expectation is that he would be the offensive coordinator in Tennessee. So just generally, the idea of a Brian Daboll, Cam Ward marriage, Greg, strikes you how?
Again, none of us know personality, so I can't speak to that. And I don't know Brian Daboll. I once reached out to him, and he actually got back to me in 10 minutes and said he loved my work. So, but I don't know him personally, and I'd like to get to know him. But the point is
well, maybe you can at the install or training camp or something like that.
There you go. But the bottom line is that he is viewed as the one who really got Josh Allen's career on the right track. What he did offensively with Allen, I liked. And I think since he left, that pass game has not been what it was with, when he was there. Now, obviously, Josh Allen and I think Cam Ward is probably similar in this regard. They're both by nature aggressive throwers. Now, what they've done in Buffalo is they've really channeled Allen and kind of reduced him to where he's not an aggressive thrower. And it's, they've still made the playoffs and it's worked. And he was an MVP under, Joe Brady. And, but I think they're both aggressive by nature. And Daboll's pass game with Josh was very much intermediate and vertical, because Josh Allen can make those throws, as can Cam Ward. So, just from, again, looking at it from a 30,000-foot view, I think that Daboll stylistically, and I think what he believes philosophically about the pass game, and it's hard to know with the Giants because he just didn't have people, nor an offensive line, by the way, which is another factor. Hard to have a pass game when your offensive line can't protect. I personally like aggressive coaches who want to push the ball down the field. Ben Johnson's like that. That's just a personal flavor. I like that. So I think that he'd be good for Cam Ward if it were to turn out to be the case.
And what we do know about it, one way or the other, is that they were very interested in Cam Ward in New York. That was the team that was most interested in trading up with the Titans in last year's draft. Ultimately, Tennessee opted to pass on the draft picks that were being offered by the Giants and take Cam Ward instead. So maybe it'll all come full circle. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
The other coaching hire that I want to ask you about before we talk about conference championship weekend, Greg, I've been trying to talk about this Indiana National Championship on the radio all week. They won't let me for some reason because of all the different coaching hire stuff that's going on. I can't possibly understand why they'd be more interested in that than Indiana, but whatever. It's personal preference, I guess.
And you were there. That must have been a lot of fun.
It was a hell of a time. I have a newfound. I have a lot of love for Fernando Mendoza to begin with, but that solidified it for a variety of different reasons.
Right.
But quickly before we do talk about conference championships in the NFL, Greg, Mike McDaniel with Justin Herbert going to Los Angeles, the former Dolphins coach. We understand that maybe if Justin Herbert has a better performance, Greg Roman's still the OC there, but that's not what ended up happening, and the Chargers start an OC search that ends up with Mike McDaniel. What do you like about the fit between the player and the coach there?
Well, as people have probably seen on social media, because it was there last week and, it's still out there, I've been around Mike McDaniel. That people can see that he was talking and I'm sitting next to him. So I've been around Mike McDaniel,
And
and
what was that? What was that clip from? I've been meaning to ask you about that. I'm glad you brought it up.
yeah, that was his. I don't know if it's still his agent, but his agent at the time was Richmond Flowers, who's a well-known coach's agent, and he invited me to an event that was on the West Coast. It was a 2-3 day event, and I spent a good amount of time with a number of coaches: Mike McDaniel, Brandon Staley, Chris Foster, Frank Smith. Trying to remember some of the others. There were a lot of coaches there, and it was a great event for a couple of days, and spent as people could see, spent time with Mike McDaniel and had some one-on-one conversations with him. He's an incredibly intelligent human being. He doesn't come across as the way people think of football coaches because he's very academic and intellectual in the way he speaks. But he's super smart. Look, the bottom line is he comes from the Shanahan school, but he's not wedded to that. Like he's not going to automatically go to the Chargers with Justin Herbert, who is obviously a totally different player stylistically than Tua or the quarterbacks that were in San Francisco when he was there with Kyle. And don't forget, I believe he was on. He was with Kyle when Kyle was the OC of the Falcons when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan. So he's been around different kinds of quarterbacks. And I think it's a really good hire because he's going to bring new ideas. And the fact that Harbaugh hired him, I'm assuming Harbaugh was actively involved in the hiring. That's what you'd like to assume, that Harbaugh understands that, hey, maybe we need some new ideas here. And don't forget, even if you take Keenan Allen out of the equation, who knows what Keenan Allen's going to do? He's older. I don't even know if he'll be on the roster. They still have quality wide receivers. The running back Hampton was injured this year, but I think with McDaniel there, that works well. I think it's a good hire. He's a really good football coach and an incredibly intelligent guy.
Titans fans were a little disappointed, hoping that Mike McDaniel would come with Robert Saleh to be the offensive coordinator here, given their connection previously in San Francisco. But one could hardly blame him for looking at the opportunity to coach Justin Herbert and saying, okay, that makes a lot of sense from that standpoint. This conference championship weekend is an interesting one, Greg. How do you even approach the Denver Broncos on the matchup show, given the quarterback situation?
Well, it's funny you say that because Jarrett Stidham's been with Sean Payton for 3 years. He's been there. He started 2 games at the end of the 2023 season, and I went through those games, and I'm actually using a play from one of those games in the show because it's a concept. That's the thing. It's concepts. The pass game is about concepts. Now, again, we don't know what Jarrett Stidham's going to do. We don't know how Sean Payton's going to approach it. My sense is Sean Payton is not going to try to hide Jarrett Stidham and play the game as if he's no good. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to have him drop back 45 times either, but I think he's going to run his offense. Now, quite frankly, he's playing against a defense that in the playoffs, the Patriots have really increased their pressure quotient. They play a lot of man coverage. They probably have way better people than a lot of people are aware of. But I think they're going to play. I don't think Sean's going to go into this game with the idea that, we're going to try to win this game 10-7. I don't think he's going to play that way because I don't think that's his nature. And I think he believes his offensive philosophy. Say what you want about Sean Payton. Some people like him, some people don't, but there's no question he's an aggressive guy who believes in what he does. Some would say his ego's too big. That's fine. That's a personal thing. But he believes in his system and what he does. And he's not going to just say, well, we're going to hand the ball off. And we don't even know if Dobbins is playing. I guess he theoretically could. But I don't think he's going to go in this game and saying, well, we're just going to hand it to Dobbins and McLaughlin and Harvey, and that's all we're going to do. And hope that, and then punt and hope we play field position. I don't think he's going to do that.
Yeah, I think just because of the nature of him making his first start of the season in the postseason, people are having a visceral reaction to the idea of, oh my God, what are the Broncos going to do? But it's worth noting, Greg, that Jarrett Stidham is one of the highest paid backups in the league. To your point, Sean Payton obviously values him and his skill set.
Been there for 3 years. He knows the system. Again, that's different from playing in the game. I don't want what I'm saying for people to think he's going to come out here and go, 25 for 35 for 405 touchdowns. That's not my point. But my point is, you're not dealing with a guy that doesn't understand the Peyton system and how to run it. Now, obviously, running it in a meeting or on an iPad is different than running it in a game, but he knows it. So, the bigger issue to me, and I'm very curious, is, obviously I've watched Denver all year. They're a good team, so I've probably watched every one of their games. You know, they've had a really good defense. And they led the league in sacks. They have a really good defense. They've got good people. And their defense gave up 30 points last week.
Yeah.
To a quarterback, apparently from what I'm seeing all through this week on social media, is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, but they gave up 30 points to Josh Allen, and in fact, this is, you're in the sports talk radio business and you get it. The conversations this week about that, this is where people, just show how stupid they are in this conversation. I mean, they might as well just wear signs on their head that say I'm an idiot. It's so, the guy put up 30 points. Now, did he turn it over? Sure. And then the one at the end of the half was egregious and truly stupid. But keep in mind the week before, Josh Allen did the same thing, and then his defense had an interception late in the game. What happened? What would have happened if the Bills defense stopped the Broncos on that, that final drive that ended up being a touchdown? What would we be saying? So these conversations are moronic. But anyway, getting back to Denver, their defense was not very good last week, and we'll see, how it happens. So I think the whole Will Campbell thing at left tackle is a big deal. He has not been very good in his last number of games, and in fact, they have had to help him. Because he can't block these guys. He wasn't able to block Mack and Owe. He wasn't able to block Hunter or Anderson. And now he gets Nick Bonito predominantly, but Cooper will line up there every once in a while.
Yeah, to your point about the Denver defense, 68 sacks in the regular season. They are excellent by any stretch of the imagination at every level of that defense, and we will see how Drake May manages the situation, because Greg, the Patriots game against the Texans, I don't know what that looks like if C.J. Stroud just plays it an even replacement level game. He had such a hard time.
I don't know
in the postseason.
I don't know what's going on with him. It's funny. Joe Flacco was in our building today, and I've known Joe for years, and I was talking to him, for 10 minutes, and we were talking about C.J. Stroud, and he was just saying, because obviously he's played the position for a long time,
sure.
And he just said, when you don't see things, it's just, he said everything's a blur to him. And he said, it's just, if everything's a blur, you can't play. And you can tell his mental and physical processes they're going 1,000 miles per hour. And I thought Troy Aikman handled it really professionally and well on the telecast when he said, they've got to figure this out. He's not the same quarterback he was as a rookie, and somewhere you got to figure it out. That doesn't mean we get to the right answer. Maybe this is who he is. We don't know, but everything is just happening so fast to him. And I thought the word blur that Joe Flacco used was great, because that's what it is. It's a blur.
Well, and you and other people who do what you do, Greg, have talked about this many times. Just the idea of how much more difficult it is to play that position when you're playing so sped up, for lack of a better term. And that feels like what we're seeing from C.J. Stroud at this point in time. They do have, this is not necessarily for our conversation, but they do have the luxury of a fifth-year option to kind of play it out a little bit with C.J. Stroud, though that has to be weighing heavily on the organization.
Again, I mean, I doubt that they're getting rid of him, and I assume he'll be their quarterback next year.
Right.
But if the season starts off in a similar fashion, they would have a major decision to make here.
On the other side of things in the NFC, we will see the NFC West continue to rule the roost. It's it's just an awesome division. I don't blame anybody for not necessarily jumping at the opportunity to be the Arizona Cardinals head coach, because, my God, that division is tough top to bottom at this point in time. So it'll be the Rams and the Seahawks. Mike Macdonald with 14 wins during the regular season this year, a single-season franchise record for Seattle. An excellent defensive play caller, Greg. We knew this. Somebody who's really balancing that head coach and play calling line very, very well.
That defense, in some ways, by NFL standards, it's it's not overly complex. Now, again, I hate using that term because there's always little things that I can't possibly know even watching tape because I'm not in their meetings. But they basically play out of a two shell. Even their pressures, it's a lot of their pressures. They still play with two shell behind it. And I tell you what, those two interior guys, Murphy and Williams, they are so hard to block. I mean, they are dominant in the run game, and that's a big deal. Although the Rams in the two games against them, week 11, week 16, actually ran the ball well. And that's an overlooked element of the Rams. They run the ball pretty well. Now, neither back is explosive, so you don't see those 30-yard runs where you go, wow, that's an unbelievable run. The Rams backs are more like the 8, 9-yard grinded out, sustaining guys. But I think they ran for something like 120 and 150 yards against the Seahawks in the two games that they played. In fact, in the second game, I think the Rams might put up like 500 yards of offense, some ridiculous number, because I think Stafford might have thrown for over 400 by himself. So, they've shown the ability to move the ball. I think with the Rams, what you don't know is, are they going to be heavy 13? Are they going to be how much 12 personnel? And by 13, for people who don't know, I mean 3 tight ends. They're going to be heavy 11 personnel with 3 wide. You almost don't know with what McVay's done in recent weeks. But this is a really good defense that Seattle has. And then on the other side, in some ways, I was kind of surprised at how well that defense played in Chicago. I mean, because I view their corners as definitely beatable, but the reality is the Bears only really scored 1 touchdown. I mean, that last play, I mean, obviously it's an unbelievable play by Williams, but it was just throwing it up in a Hail Mary type throw. But they only gave up the 1 real touchdown in that game. So their defense really played well. And even on the back end. So this is a fascinating matchup. I mean, I hope it plays out the way we all feel it's going to play out, but you never know till they play it.
Well, and I wonder. So that is a portion of this morning's episode of The Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. If you want to hear the full episode, available via your podcast app, your preferred podcast app, or on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel, where you can like the video and subscribe to the channel while you're there. Second hour is ahead, and there's an incredible... Well, no, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. The AP has named its regular season award finalists. So that's MVP, Depoy, Opoy, Oroy, D-Roy, comeback player of the year, coach of the year, and assistant coach of the year. Of the MVP finalists, we're going to talk about who is most deserving coming up next. The NFL has announced its finalists for NFL honors, which will, of course, be presented during the week of the Super Bowl out in San Francisco. Super Bowl, sneaky close. Senior Bowl, even closer. Zach and Stoney are going to be down there. I may end up popping down to Senior Bowl for a couple of days, depending on the Titans' media availability schedule, to get an opportunity to talk more to Robert Saleh and Mike Borgonzi about where this offseason is heading. So we'll keep you updated on that, but certainly Stoney and Zach will do a great job. Is Zach off today? You filling in?
I'm with Blaine today.
Is that what I saw? Okay. Well, his dog is apparently having an eye procedure.
Yes. Huxley is going under again. So everybody send good vibes to Huxley.
Have you seen what Huxley looks like?
Yes, he's adorable.
A woman I was dating at the time when Zach got Huxley described him once as a golden loaf of bread, which Fantastic. Is basically what are they called, French bulldogs? Is that what Huxley technically is? Yes, a French bulldog. So we're wishing all the best for Zach and his loaf of bread, Huxley. Anyway, the MVP is the conversation that we're going to focus in on the most. We can wait until Super Bowl week to kind of guess who we think is going to win Coach of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, all these different things. The MVP finalists right now are as follows: Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, Christian McCaffrey, and Matthew Stafford. I think you could make a hell of a case for Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey will certainly not win the NFL MVP. If anything, he will win the Offensive Player of the Year,
Go ahead
which
and
he
pencil
is
him in.
Also up for. I don't know, man. JSN had a hell of a year. Like that would. McCaffrey is special for sure and did a lot of heavy lifting in Seattle, but I don't know that it's a lock.
So close to having 1,000-yard season, both rushing and receiving. Just over 1,200 rush yards, 924 receiving yards, 17 total touchdowns. He is the first player ever to be a finalist for 3 AP NFL individual awards in the same year.
He's a badass. And again, a reminder that these are regular season awards. The postseason does not factor in to the outcome of these awards. As candidates, so let's just assume, unfortunately, that Christian McCaffrey has the longest odds to win the MVP because it almost seems exclusively a quarterback award. I think if I remember correctly, we previously had this conversation and found that the last MVP, non-quarterback MVP, was Adrian Peterson in 2012.
Yeah.
How good of a candidacy does Trevor Lawrence have?
He had a nice season. It's the best season that we've seen from Trevor Lawrence in his career. But this is a race between Matthew Stafford and Drake May. It has been all year. And to me, I don't think it should be particularly close between the two. I don't know if you guys agree with me. But Lawrence is in there as a finalist, and especially the back half of the season. Trevor Lawrence was excellent.
He was awesome.
But for me, it's Matthew Stafford is a slam dunk.
Why?
I think the numbers are mostly better with Stafford. Certainly better. 15 more touchdowns than Drake May.
Led the league in touchdown passes did Matthew Stafford this year.
Almost 400 more passing yards. May had a better QBR. He had a better completion percentage. But Stafford and the defenses he did it against are the separator to me. In that loaded division with some of the best defenses in the league, I suppose that includes the Rams defense, but the strength of schedule pushes it in Stafford's favor, and he already has some of the marquee stats that you look at with this award, and he has them overwhelmingly. They're tied on interceptions with 8 apiece. Drake May was fantastic this season, and that could very well be the Super Bowl.
Huge jump in favor of Drake May, who, without him taking a meaningful step in his sophomore year, the Patriots don't get anywhere close, which is the conversation to be had around the Patriots this year. Now, there's a variety of different reasons, and in fact, worth noting, we don't have to talk about this today, but you want to talk about a slam dunk, Assistant Coach of the Year, Josh McDaniels.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
It's Fangio, Flores, Vance Joseph, Clint Kubiak, and all are worthy nominees, and maybe Clint Kubiak has a very strong candidacy as well, but I don't think that they take as big of a step in New England as they have without Josh McDaniels back in his third stint as the offensive coordinator there.
And what are the Coach of the Year finalists?
Coach of the Year finalists are as follows: Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Vrabel.
Vrabel will win it.
Vrabel heavily favored to win Coach of the Year. I I could make a stronger case, I think, for either Kyle Shanahan or Mike Macdonald, because both of them have a heavier responsibility as a defensive play calling head coach in Seattle and an offensive play calling head coach in San Francisco. Also, Kyle Shanahan is a wizard, has no business. Like, Seattle's been pretty healthy all year long, so it's not been as hard for Mike Macdonald as it has for Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan, I know they met their undoing in pretty dramatic fashion in the divisional round against Seattle. But, again, regular season award. I don't know who did more with less than Kyle Shanahan. And that's the way that Vrabel won it in 2021, for what it's worth, more with less.
Can you name the last head coach to win NFL Coach of the Year twice and to do it with different teams?
Ooh, to do it with different teams is an interesting wrinkle there. Would it be Andy Reid?
No, it would be. Go ahead.
Bruce Arians?
It is Bruce Arians.
Ooh.
Bruce Arians won it in 2012 with Indianapolis, and then only 2 years later with Arizona.
He wasn't the coach, though.
He was the interim head coach.
Oh, because Pagano had cancer.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Went 9-3 in 2012 and won Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I think that was like the best version of Andrew Luck that we saw, was that 2012 version. So I also would agree with you that I would vote Matt Stafford over Drake May, because I think I don't know that Sean McVay couldn't do a lot of the things that he's doing to a lesser extent, of course, with, for example, Jimmy Garoppolo. Because obviously McVay, being the offensive play calling head coach for Stafford, has maximized Matt Stafford's abilities ever since he went to Los Angeles. But Stafford has been awesome this year. And I know it kind of petered out down the stretch a little bit. They haven't been as spectacular, the Rams. And Diana brought up the idea of, we haven't seen Matt Stafford, in her words, put on the cape in the postseason. Again, it's a regular season award. But at 37 years old, with a back that we didn't think was going to function, leading the league in touchdown passes and passing yards, again, it should be Matt Stafford, I think, by a pretty clear margin.
Would be his first.
Which is kind of crazy. I guess it's not that crazy, because he's always been statistically impressive.
Always, but always in an era, I mean, he's played at this point, he's played at the highest level in multiple quarterback eras of the NFL.
Somebody on YouTube says, I'm shocked Andy Reid didn't win it with Philly and Kansas City at some point in time.
Oh, he might have. I just closed it out. But the most recent coach to do it was Bruce Arians.
Really good guess by Robert.
Yes.
It wasn't a guess.
I'm sorry?
It wasn't a guess.
Oh, you could have just soaked that in.
No, I knew it. It wasn't a guess.
He's
right.
He's taking a victory lap.
Yes.
His tone just
As
indicates that he's a little more.
Sorry. Yeah. I feel like I'm communicating through email here. No one can tell really if I'm upset or if I'm just exchanging information.
Did you see the throw? Stafford, it was not, didn't put the Rams on his back in that game in Chicago. Didn't lose the game, right? Didn't have any turnover problems. But the throw to Devontae Adams in overtime, did anybody see, like, the all-22
The
angle?
out route.
Oh, my goodness.
By Adams?
It doesn't look, I'm going to send it into our little Twitter group here. I'll retweet it, too, at Lucas Panzica. It doesn't even seem possible. It doesn't even seem, like, physically possible. I can't tell if it's a no-look, but just absurd.
What was the movie with Angelina Jolie where she could bend bullets around walls?
Oh, Wanted.
This is like...
That was such a bad movie.
Oh, I like that movie.
Bad movie.
It's a good movie.
It's all involving this spindle that they're weaving the tapestry of an assassin's.
Bad take. Good movie.
Terrible movie.
It's a good movie.
Worst Morgan Freeman movie ever.
I'm not taking these pop culture opinions from you, Mr. I don't know who Freddie Mercury is. But just go look at this throw.
All right, I've got it in front of me now. Matt Bowen is who tweeted it out instead of Lucas trying to grift off Matt Bowen's good film work here.
I mean, it's absurd. Like, how
from the opposite hash is crazy.
He's on the right hash. Stafford is standing on the right hash, throwing this out route to the left sideline. And I can't tell if his eyes are even looking that way. It looks like his head is positioned straight forward.
How the hell do you even... the physics behind that
doesn't
throw
make sense.
Are crazy.
It's perfect. It's perfect in every sense.
God tier throw by Matt Stafford. Awesome. So I think we are all largely in agreement. Robert, you have no pushback on Matt Stafford MVP?
Not at all. Led the league in passing yards, touchdown percentage, first down, longest pass of the year, yards per game, and is his first to do that in every single one of those categories. Played 98% of the snaps at 37 years old. Yeah, it's Stafford.
All right, very good. When we will get back into the Titans coaching conversation, conference championship conversation a little later on. But to start the 11 o'clock hour, there is a fascinating and very messy situation going on in the world of college football. We will update you on that coming up next.
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Lucas Panzica. As we await an official announcement from the Titans about Robert Saleh being named the next head coach, the wait for offensive coordinator candidate Brian Daboll's next move continues as he meets with the Bills today about the head coaching position in Buffalo. Meanwhile, MVP finalists have been named in the NFL. They are Matthew Stafford, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, and Christian McCaffrey. The MVP will be announced at NFL Honors during Super Bowl week. The Preds are back home, continuing a homestand, hosting the Senators at Bridgestone Arena. Puck drop tonight is at 7. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It seems that every year in college football, as long as the current atmosphere and landscape look the way that they do, that we're going to have one of these incredibly messy transfer portal situations to talk about each and every offseason. The college football season is obviously done. Indiana is champions, but now everybody retools with the portal, or has been retooling over the course of the last couple of weeks, with the portal then opened, now closed within the last week. And last year, the messy situation was a hyper-local one. It was Nico Iamaleava and the University of Tennessee, him trying to leverage a raise from Tennessee, Tennessee putting their foot down. He then transfers to UCLA, where he takes a substantial pay cut and has a terrible, terrible season for a program that ultimately ended up firing its coach in that season.
He's staying, by the way.
At UCLA?
Yeah. He's sticking around. Going to play for the coach they hired, Chesney, out of JMU, trying to ride that JMU train.
Not a bad pipeline to try and explore based on recent sample size. This year, it is Duke and the second-team All-ACC quarterback Darian Mensah, who put his name into the transfer portal late Wednesday night. Duke very quickly then filed a lawsuit against Mensah in Durham County, North Carolina, to prevent him from entering the portal. Now, the judge in that particular lawsuit granted most of Duke's requests, so he can enter the portal according to a temporary restraining order, but he cannot start playing football or enroll for another program or license his name, image, and likeness anywhere else while this situation is currently being litigated. The next scheduled date, the next hearing on this case, is February 2nd. The further complication of this is who was favored to land him, because now you're kind of holding two different programs hostage if you're Darian Mensah, because when he entered the transfer portal, who very quickly became the favorite to land him?
Yeah, it was always for Miami. For him to replace Carson Beck at quarterback.
And we understand that Mario Cristobal seems to have a type and that he would prefer to go the veteran quarterback route, being more adept to handle the various situations to give them a better chance to compete in the postseason and things like that. So now, Miami doesn't have a settled quarterback situation after their season ends in a national championship loss. And Duke may have a settled quarterback situation, but that situation being a bit of a hostage situation because Darian Mensah wants out.
So until the hearing happening on the 2nd, Mensah cannot enroll at another school. He cannot license his NIL to anybody else. He cannot interfere with Duke's rights to his NIL or further breach his contract. And where this goes will be very, very interesting. Every time one of these things happen, the reaction is like, okay, this could be the tipping point in this wild, wild west era, right? The Washington situation where the quarterback tries to hit the portal and Washington says, no, you literally signed something that said you would not hit the portal, and he caved. He came back, and then you have comments from Washington coach Jed Fish talking about how he's going to have to earn the trust back of his teammates.
Sure. No, you burn a bridge immediately as soon as you try this and fail.
So here's the latest version of that, right? This will certainly be the tipping point. A conference or a school within a conference trying to poach a conference rival's quarterback right at the 11th hour. He filed the paperwork just before the portal closed on Friday. His name officially appeared on Wednesday. But, man, that feels shady, right? Can you
If you're
imagine?
Mensa?
Like, I love just putting this into NFL terms. Like, just imagine the Cleveland Browns just call up Joe Burrow and say, no, come here. We'll pay you more. Pay you a little more. And right at the beginning of the offseason, Joe Burrow is a Browns quarterback now. And then in 2027, he's back to a Bengals quarterback. And in 2028, he's a Steelers quarterback, and so on and so forth. So I'm very skeptical that any of this will lead to a tipping point in any regard, but I am fascinated at what happens here. Like, if this ends up favorably for Duke, what in the world happens to Darian Mensah?
Well, I mean, he goes back and he plays quarterback for Duke, and it's similar to the Washington quarterback situation where the trust is broken. The team probably doesn't believe in him because he's just expressed a bit of a front-runner mentality, right? Like, I'm going to go to Miami where they were just in the national championship, and I think that I can play in that circumstance better than Carson Beck, and I'll go win a natty there instead of trying to gut it out at Duke, who technically did win the ACC this year. So not technically, they did. Duke also apparently hosted a transfer quarterback of their own, Walker, is it Eggett? San Jose State transfer?
I don't know.
So they hedged their bets against the Mensah situation already and have a situation where he is coming in to potentially replace Mensah if this lawsuit goes against Duke. The 2-year contract that he signed back in December of 2024 granted exclusive NIL rights to Duke through December 31st, 2026. The deal, which began as a third-party NIL agreement, this is according to the reporting of the Athletic, transitioned to a revenue-sharing contract with Duke last summer under the terms of the multi-billion-dollar antitrust settlement known as the House Settlement. I mean, in what world is he going to be welcomed back into that locker room if this, like, what do you really accomplish if you're Duke other than you set a precedent that if you sign a contract with us, you have to stick to that contract, which is the kind of message that you want to send, but then you just have this malcontent on your roster, right?
Ricky makes the point. You do not want to get in a contract fight with Duke attorneys. That's my question. Is there a scenario here where Darian Mensah is left in the dust, where this ends favorably for Duke, and they say, oh, no, we're good. We went out and got a replacement. You're no longer welcome here.
Well, it just depends. Are they going to be so hell-bent on sending a message that they would play a lesser player? That's a really tough thing to kind of be convicted about if you're Duke, who's competing in the ACC. And, yeah, maybe you've hurt Miami a little bit just by nature of not granting them the ability to poach your quarterback. But are you really going to play a lesser player at quarterback just to send a message, Robert?
Isn't it crazy we're talking about Duke football and worried about them playing a lesser player? Like, Duke football.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And my question is, what's the difference in what happened at Washington and what happened here? Why do they not have the same ability to say, no, you're not going to leave the same way Washington did?
We put in a request for sports attorney Dan Lust and have not heard back. So he could speak to this on a much smarter level than we could.
We put in a request means Lucas texted him and got ghosted.
Correct. But for me, very surface level, it feels like the Washington situation there was pen to paper with Damon Williams in the contract that he signed. It was stated that he would not leave and enter the transfer portal and go elsewhere. They held him to that, and he ended up staying in Washington. This is a dispute over NIL rights. Like, Duke is saying, oh, that's fine. You can go into the portal, but we have the rights to pay your name, image, and likeness. Nobody else does right now.
So it's just contract language that's different between the two, right? The one, like Lucas pointed out, no, you can't enter the portal. Oops, I forgot to read the contract, and I put myself in the portal. Okay, buddy, but you can't do that. So come on out of the portal, and you can continue to play football for Washington. And now there's trust that's broken there between Washington and the player.
Messy.
Can you imagine? So let's say they compromise to an extent, and he is allowed.
Who's calling?
Answer it.
Some Binghamton, New York?
What do they want?
I don't know. The only person I know
Patch
from
him in.
Binghamton, New York is, well, I don't know, but I know that Tony Kornheiser is from Binghamton, New York.
Oh, it must be Tony. Answer it.
Of course. Uncle Tony. Wouldn't it be funny, and this is pointed out by a commenter in the YouTube chat, is there a world in which the compromise is struck that, okay, you can transfer, but we retain your NIL rights? So you can't go sell yourself to some Miami life wallet company and make money as a Miami quarterback. You can go play for them, but you can't make money there in the way that you expect to make money and in the way that you were granted the exclusive right to make money through the Duke football program. Is there any world, again, this is a question for Dan Lust, which hopefully Dan will join us at some point in time as these things continue to get litigated, because I'm sure it's not going to be the only one of its kind. Wouldn't that be an interesting situation? Would the player leave? Would you just go play? Would you essentially go play quarterback at Miami pro bono?
Yeah, what a world.
If you couldn't make money off your ability to go play quarterback at Miami. Because that has to be a huge part of the attraction beyond, competing for a championship, which maybe theoretically Miami is closer than Duke to competing for a championship, given that they were just in the championship game. I have no idea how this ends.
There have to be some kind of guardrails for this. I don't know if you guys saw this. It happened earlier this morning. So a Cal transfer who was ACC Rookie of the Year, he went in the transfer portal. He went to Clemson. He enrolled in Clemson. He has gone through defensive meetings at Clemson, practices at Clemson. He signed with them on January 7th. He enrolled, but is now expected to transfer to Ole Miss. Like, this is nuts.
Yep.
This is nuts.
Yeah.
The dude has been going to practice. He's been in meetings at Clemson. It's like, nah, well, Ole Miss told me, which this has to be tampering, right? Like, how is Ole Miss getting back in contact with him when he's out of the portal? Like, there needs to be some kind of sheriff with a big iron on his hip.
Oh, such a great song.
Yeah, it is a great song. But, like, someone needs to be the purveyor of justice in this wild, wild west.
Well, but think about who it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the damn NCAA. What are they doing about it? They're they're letting players who have been in the G League come back and play college basketball. That's their level of enforcement.
The other part of this is the lack of foresight when guys are signing these contracts initially. Like Duke, to their credit, trying to take advantage of revenue sharing and use that money to go get a quarterback. Darian Mensah was making close to $4 million last year to play football at Duke. He went from Tulane to Duke. Bryce in the F&M Bank chat says, if Miami agreed to pay the rest of his contract off, then how is this different than us being okay with coaches doing this all the time? That's because coaches have outs in their contract. They have buyout clauses in their contract. That doesn't exist here. This is from Stuart Mandel's article on The Athletic. The suit claims that if Mensah is allowed to break the contract by entering the transfer portal, enrolling at another school, playing football, and or licensing his NIL rights to another school, it would cause Duke, quote, irreparable harm. That's what the suit says. Mensah's contract does not include an early termination or a buyout clause. So Mensah, or whoever is advising him, agrees to a deal that basically says, if you try to leave, it will cause an absolute mess. Mm-hmm. And then a year from that point, try to leave to go to Miami. Like, no foresight here whatsoever. If you're Darian Mensah, are you asking, is your ultimate dream to play at Duke? If you're chasing money in this thing, and you know you've got another year of college football after the 2025 season, when you're going into this, how is there not somebody around him, I don't know, having just any level of foresight to tell you, hey, if you do think there's a situation where you want to leave, it's going to get very, very messy. Oh. It's like they don't even think about that.
Buddy, real easy. Look at Nico's circumstance.
Yeah.
You think the adults in the room were the biggest problem, it sounds like, with why Nico Iamaleava ended up in the mess that he ended up in. The adults in the room are the ones who are trying to take advantage of the different situation. And again, it's about, you want to talk about a breaking of trust, like the amount of people that pop out of the woodwork to represent athletes in the NIL era without being qualified this way. This is why people like Drew Rosenhaus are getting into the business. Because Drew Rosenhaus is sitting there thinking, okay, well, there's a huge, famous NFL agent, Drew Rosenhaus. Drew Rosenhaus is sitting around there thinking, this is a huge piggy bank that we haven't cracked yet as an industry who are already doing NFL representation. And we have far more experience than these, Instagram influencers of agents that these kids are getting caught up by and end up getting represented by. What's the Cordell what? What's the guy that got in the Nico mess and then also was involved in the Washington mess?
Oh, Cordell Landers.
Yeah, like these kind of people.
Yeah, just
right?
finds himself in all of these situations.
They're shysters. So you've got essentially a segment of the population who are preying on college athletes this way, giving them bad advice, and then taking the money that comes with the bad advice that they're giving the player with essentially no, because what's the repercussions for Cordell Landers in the Washington circumstance? Nothing other than you've damaged your reputation, but was your payday on the ability to negotiate some of these contracts or be involved in some of these deals worth the damage that it makes to your reputation? Because it's a $3 million grab bag here and a $2 million grab bag there.
Tom Pelissero has tweeted a bit of an update in the Titans offensive coordinator search.
Okay, we will get to that coming up next.
The NFL head coaching carousel has been heating up like a Hattie B's hot chicken sandwich, but here the attention has been turned to the offensive coordinator search. And while we're on Daboll watch, as he meets with Bills decision makers today about the head coaching position, we have been searching for other names to peruse when it comes to Robert Saleh's potential offensive coordinator in Tennessee. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network has dropped a few of those names as he tweets just minutes ago. The Titans continue to work through offensive coordinator options with Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, Adam Stenavich, and Bobby Slowick among the potential options per sources. All have OC experience as Robert Saleh looks for the right man to work with quarterback Cam Ward. Buck, we knew about Brian Daboll. Diana reported that yesterday, that if he doesn't end up the Bills head coach, he is likely to land in Tennessee. But Daboll aside, which of those names sticks out the most? Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Adam Stenavich, Bobby Slowick.
It's probably Cliff, right? Like if you're talking about just like jumps off the page at you, former NFL head coach, different kind of style offensively, certainly from Daboll. Not something that you would be opposed to. I don't know. Would Titans fans turn their nose up at Cliff Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator?
No.
I can't imagine.
No,
I
don't think so.
I think he did a really good job in Washington in Jaden Daniels' rookie year, and then what most undid Washington this year was quarterback was hurt. Like, I don't know what Cliff's supposed to do in that circumstance. Now, this is the kind of thing that Robert Saleh had to include in his plan, in his pitch to the Titans, right? Because if Cliff does things well again, one would assume that he's going to be back in the cycle for head coaching opportunities. And maybe Daboll would be too, right? So you're going to have to deal with some level of attrition either way when you have those kind of names in there. How much blame does Bobby Slowick deserve in Houston is a question I would love to have the answer to.
The situation has looked better for him since his exit, I would say. He spent this past year as the senior passing game coordinator in Miami. Adam Stenavich, by the way, maybe not a name that most people are familiar with. The Packers offensive coordinator does not call plays in Green Bay under LaFleur, but did work with Saleh for a period in San Francisco.
All right, so knee-jerk reaction, maybe this is unfair. I'm not interested in a first-time offensive coordinator.
Or
a
offensive
first-time
play caller.
I'm not interested in a first-time offensive play caller. I need somebody who's a proven commodity to handle things around Cam Ward, who has experience working with a variety of different quarterbacks. And listen, I'm sure that Stenavich is somebody who has a wealth of knowledge from working with Matt LaFleur. I'm sure there's a great relationship there. And the Packers offense was not what Packers fans wanted it to be. Again, Jordan Love dealt with all manner of different issues this year where he's missing time with concussions. He's dealing with other injuries that derailed Jordan Love and the Packers offense. I don't know how much to pin on the Packers offensive coaching staff when the quarterback is just, inconsistently available.
Swedish dance party on the FNM Bank chat where you can hang out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch says, you're right. Is Stenavich still under contract in Green Bay? I'm not sure exactly what his contract situation is, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is that considered a jump up? Right? Like, you can't just bounce around with lateral moves, right? But if you're an offensive coordinator, obviously you can take head coaching interviews. If you're a non-play calling offensive coordinator, you can take play calling offensive coordinator interviews, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you could take either one of them if the people who own your contract allow you to.
Sure.
They can block.
You can block it. Yeah,
Sure.
You have the option to block a couple of different things.
Even if you're like, say, Clint Kubiak, for whatever reason, was an offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, he could interview to be the offensive coordinator here if Seattle would allow him to and he was interested. The only thing that would, the delegation of play calling or not play calling doesn't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
The thing that is, it basically grants the team, if it's viewed as a lateral move, the team that currently has him under contract has the right to block it.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
but technically, it wouldn't necessarily be a lateral move, right? Like, that is a step up.
It would be a step up because he would then have it would be the next phase of, say he has head coach aspirations. Well, the next phase of his career jump would be, okay, let me go call offensive plays and have the training wheels kicked off of me.
He's the only non-play caller, only person on this list Pelissero put out that does not have play calling experience.
So I would put him last. We don't know everything there is to know about these candidates. It's worth noting. But if you told me sight unseen how would you stack those candidates? I would not want a first-time offensive play caller handling the future growth and development of Cam Ward. I just don't. I think it's too critically important to get this right, especially if you're Robert Saleh and you saw how the Mike LaFleur thing blew up in your face.
So Saleh has worked with Stenavich in San Francisco. He has worked with Bobby Slowick. He has not worked with Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, or Cliff Kingsbury.
So it's an even mix of guys he has worked with and guys he hasn't worked with. And there would be some level of, because there are people, I mean, I went back and looked at on the recommendation of somebody much smarter than me, I went back and looked at every Pro Football Reference page for every team that Robert Saleh has been at least in some facet coaching on in the NFL since 2005. And the names, like you can find Greg Roman on there, you can find Shanahan, you can find all manner of McVay, branches off those different trees. There's a variety of different ways that the staff could further be filled out beyond just the offensive coordinator. But it does sound like there are some more eye-catching offensive coordinator candidates. Cliff Kingsbury would be the one I'm most curious about. I think the one that's going to be met with the most probably disappointment's the wrong word, but just kind of like, no, I'm good, is Art.
You're saying from fans?
From fans.
Yeah.
I don't think that Arthur Smith is a bad offensive coordinator. I think Titans fans are just kind of like, well, what is he without A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry? Which, by the way, it's not an unfair argument to make because it didn't. But you have to think about, like, when Arthur was here and understanding the personnel that they had when Arthur was here, Arthur led and coordinated the most successful offense in the history of the franchise. So
correct.
You cannot completely discount Arthur Smith, understanding that there would be some personnel adjustments that he would have to make.
It's definitely the best talent situation he's been a part of, I would say, right? Better than Pittsburgh. I mean, in terms of what his play style is, the influence Aaron Rodgers inevitably has.
Maybe argue Atlanta because the skill players.
Yeah, but no, the quarterback situation negates it for
messy.
Me. Like Desmond Ridder just wipes it all out.
Desmond Ridder, broken Marcus Mariota. Yeah. I think there was a little bit of Heineke sprinkled in there or something like that.
Robert, did you see this? Kevin Eck, the Ravens team writer, put up an article on the team site this morning citing Diana Rossini's reporting on The Athletic, or actually what she said with Colin Cowherd on his show, that Lamar Jackson would like Cliff Kingsbury to run the Ravens offense.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people clamoring for this now that has been tied together. I'm interested to see who this came from because I don't know.
Because Lamar? You mean the Lamar angle? Because he's famously like
I would think
this
would have to come from Cliff. Now, Diana, in that same interview, did say that Lamar has been involved with the interview process in Baltimore, zooming in from Florida. He did not take Bisciotti up on his offer to take his private plane up from Florida. But would he like to work with him? Sure, but I think that's mostly because Cliff Kingsbury runs a lot of stuff out of shotgun. But I think Lamar would want to work with anybody that would. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm the most expert on this situation. But, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, though, with Baltimore's interest in Cliff Kingsbury, with it not really being like he would be their head coach.
Steve Bisciotti has said Lamar will have a lot to say in the Ravens' selection of a new head coach. So, 615-737-1045. Luke in Hendersonville is up. Hey, Luke.
Hey, guys. Hope you're having a good day. Which one of these coordinators has the most experience with a quarterback who primarily takes the ball from shotgun? It seems like Cam doesn't really take a lot of snaps from under center. Obviously, if they can teach him that, he can get better at it, then that could open up play action and things like that. So who fits that bill? All right, thanks.
Cliff Kingsbury by a mile. Now, I don't have the percentages in front of me, but it's Cliff Kingsbury by a mile.
I don't have his time in Washington in front of me, but when he was with the Cardinals as their head coach, they used shotgun roughly 89.9% of the time.
It's not even remotely close.
It's probably not that different with Jaden Daniels, right?
I wouldn't imagine it would be drastically different. I mean, that's kind of what his offensive style is defined by. Now, the other guys on this list, like Bobby Slowick, I think is a lot of under center. I think Arthur Smith is a lot of under center.
Yeah, a lot of different styles here. Different backgrounds.
So, We will circle back as more information becomes available on the offensive coordinator situation, but there is a few more names to sprinkle in. If you would like to participate there, or if you would like to weigh in there, you are welcome to do so. Now, on to the conference championship games as we await, because it's basically just a waiting game with the offensive coordinator stuff. We got to wait for Daboll to interview with the Bills. We got to wait for Cliff to potentially get a head coaching job or a second interview with another team hiring head coaches, if that is, because one would assume that any of those guys who are up for head coaching gigs would probably take a head coaching gig over coming to Tennessee as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but Daboll feels like the only serious candidate to be a head coach out of those names that Pelissero laid out. And I guess there's a scenario where, they don't want to let Daboll leave the building, right? They're scheduled to talk to Grant Udinski on Sunday, the Jags OC, the Bills are. But I suppose there's a scenario where we see reports tonight that Buffalo is set to finalize a deal with Brian Daboll, or it could drag out for the next few days.
So let's talk some actual football, because there is actual football still being played. The circumstance for these four teams in these two games, the Patriots and the Broncos, the Rams and the Seahawks. For each team, let's go down the list. Let's talk about the most interesting storyline in the AFC Championship game. You have to have the conversation about the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos before you have a conversation about the AFC Championship game. Jarrett Stidham has 4 career starts, and he is one of 7. NFL Research sent this out yesterday. Was yesterday the 21st? Yeah. Yesterday is the 21st. Jarrett Stidham, going to start in this game, becomes... I wonder, Robert, if you want to play this game with me, because I feel like you might be able to get more than the average person. Jarrett Stidham would become the 7th quarterback in the Super Bowl era to make their first start of the season in the playoffs. Can you name the other 6?
Oof. Their first start, and this is only quarterbacks?
Only quarterbacks. The 7th quarterback in the Super Bowl era. So going back to the 60s.
So that wipes
67.
out Nick Foles.
Nick Foles had multiple starts that postseason.
He was also the starter of the Eagles well before the Carson Wentz situation.
I can give you the list of names if you don't want to guess.
You're saying first career start, not just first playoff
not first
start.
Career start.
Oh, okay.
Not first start of the season.
Okay.
Is in the Super Bowl.
No. The first, everybody slow down.
The first start
of the season.
Of next season.
Of your career.
I'm sorry. You're sick, so I'm being nice to you. Don't make this harder on me.
Making me feel better.
What, annoying me?
You read it.
How do preseason games figure into this?
I could choke you. The first start of the season in the playoffs. 6 other quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era have done this. The chat has already gotten one correct if you want to steal one from the chat. If you want to phone a friend from the chat, your friend Dixie has already named one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Just tell me.
Taylor Heineke.
Oh, good.
Taylor Heineke started in the NFC wildcard round with Washington. It was his first start that season.
Matthew Moore?
Matthew Moore is not on that list.
Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson is not on this list.
Well, your list is a fraud.
What about Brian Hoyer?
Instead of us guessing.
No. Come on,
This
dude.
is good. This is good stuff.
One of them is a former NFL head coach.
Former head coach.
He was the coach. He was recently, within the last 3 seasons,
Jeff
fired
Saturday.
in a season. No, it's not a quarterback. I'm going to name these.
Case Keenum?
No, come on. We're getting there, dude. We're almost.
If you don't get one in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to just read the list. No, Osweiler had multiple starts.
He did not
season.
play in the playoffs that year.
You ready?
No, come on.
No, read the prompt again one more time.
The 7th quarterback, Jarrett Stidham would become the 7th quarterback in the Super Bowl era to make their first start of the season in the playoffs. The other 6 are Taylor Heineke.
Wait. Okay. Hold on.
I'm done with this game.
We can do this.
Kevin Leonard gets it correct. Frank Reich is another one.
Cook.
Connor Cook is another one.
I said Brian Hoyer.
I just needed time.
You needed time to Google it because now you have this prompt in front of you.
No, I don't. Look
Taylor
at this.
Heineke, Connor Cook, Joe Webb, Frank Reich, Gary Danielson, and Roger Staubach.
Blaine Gabbert.
All right, very good.
See, I would have remembered Joe Webb. Do you guys remember Joe Webb?
Charlie Whitehurst.
Joe Webb was Minnesota. Whitehurst did not play.
He played like every position there was to play.
Joe Webb. UAB legend. Yeah. He was awesome.
The way you just got excited about UAB.
I was growing up in Birmingham when he was the quarterback at UAB. He was a stud.
Yeah, so who would would that have been Bridgewater, 2013 NFC?
Christian Ponder.
Christian Ponder, okay. So yeah, Heineke, Cook, Joe Webb, Frank Reich, Gary Danielson, Roger Staubach.
That's the best. I mean, that is the biggest storyline of conference championship weekend. It's the Denver Broncos with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback against the New England Patriots, as Denver, I guess, just tries to invoke the 2015 run where they were carrying Peyton's lifeless body to the Super Bowl. And I guess Nick Bonito has to do his best Von Miller impression here and just
force a fumble,
totally take over.
That the opposing quarterback wants nothing to do with and doesn't try to make an attempt to dive on at all, even though it's the biggest game of the season, and then pouts in a post-game press conference afterwards. Sorry, Cam Newton.
I love that you guys have no faith in Jared Stidham. He is going to get it done. I don't even want a spread. I don't care what the spread is. I want money line. Broncos are going to win it. They're going to figure it out.
I remember him coming out of high school. He was a stud 5-star prospect to go to Baylor and then transfer to Auburn.
People aren't talking enough about the Jarrett Stidham revenge game. Patriots legend.
That's right.
Jarrett Stidham.
His first 3 years of his career in New England.
Him.
Do you think they're watching tape from the 8 games he played in New England?
I think they're watching the Denver Broncos offense, because I think Sean Payton is still going to try to run his offense, but just do it with Jarrett Stidham. Listen, Bo Nix is not, a perfect player by any stretch of the imagination, and Jarrett Stidham has at least been in the NFL for an extended period of time. He only has 4 career starts, though. Stidham, it's the fewest career starts by a quarterback entering the championship game since 1970. So if they do this, it would be the improbable, but it is by far the most interesting storyline of conference championship weekend. All right. Coming up next, Jeremy Fowler, an NFL insider for ESPN, made several bold predictions, one of which involves Lamar Jackson, Robert's precious and beloved Ravens quarterback, being shipped to another AFC team. We'll tell you what that is coming up next.
Conference championship weekend in the NFL is almost here, and we're expecting a bit of a snowmageddon this weekend. Stay safe, stay inside on Sunday, and get yourself a big old bucket of Hattie B's hot chicken to sit on your toasty living room couch and watch the AFC and NFC Conference Championship action with big old jumbo Hattie B's wings in hand. Hot or not, whatever works for you. Make sure you get a quart or two of their incredible sides, the pimento mac and cheese, my personal favorite, the Southern greens. You simply cannot go wrong. And as I'm saying that, my mouth is watering, thinking about an all-day marathon on Sunday. Just me, football on the TV, and a bucket of Hattie B's hot chicken right next to me. Also on your lunch break, hit up any one of their 7 Middle Tennessee locations. Of course, the factory at Franklin location still doing breakfast on weekends. Be sure to download the Hattie B's app today. Get a free dessert simply by downloading the app and try out that banana pudding, or head to HattieB.com and make your conference championship watch party hot in the cold this weekend with Hattie B's.
We're not in the NFL offseason yet. We are perilously close. It's the offseason for a great many teams, all but 4 at this point in time. Jeremy Fowler, who is one of the ESPN NFL insiders, has put out a piece on ESPN.com citing NFL executives and their predictions for an upcoming offseason that they were allowed to submit not anonymously. So he gives a couple of examples of where executives got it kind of right last year, where in this piece from a year ago, it was predicted that DK Metcalf would get traded from the Seattle Seahawks. The team that the executive picked DK Metcalf to get traded to was the Chargers instead of the Steelers. So 50% on that. That Sam Darnold was predicted to go to the Raiders. That ultimately didn't happen, but it caused a domino effect that saw Sam Darnold go to Seattle and then Geno Smith go to the Raiders. So at least some level of accuracy there. Robert is currently awaiting the Baltimore Ravens, his favorite team, to make a pick at head coach for Lamar Jackson after John Harbaugh for 18 years was moved on from in Baltimore. And in this executive prediction piece, the first thing that's listed, Robert, is a item where an NFL executive predicts Lamar Jackson to be traded to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, are you sure this wasn't a Dan Graziano prediction?
Dan Graziano is nowhere near it.
He
Do
probably
you give it any more credence or less credence since Dan Graziano tried to fool all of us into thinking that the Jets could possibly lead the league in rushing? You being offended by that is one of the funniest things out there, by the way.
I just look for things to be offended by at this point.
I'm aware.
Who was it, an AFC general manager or an executive that alleged this, or was it an NFC? Because
it just
could
says
be
an
wishful.
NFL personnel evaluator. It does not list conference.
Okay.
I love those because it could be any level.
Could be an area scout.
He's like, as he's going to get coffee, he's like, hey, by the way, what's your bold prediction for the offseason? Lamar Jackson's going to get traded.
It's
so
my,
who
my
in this
favorite.
Would you like me to read before you get all in a huff? Calm down.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, this is a fictional story. This is like, ooh, look at this hot alien I met at the car wash.
What did I just say?
Like, I'm not hot about it.
Let me read it.
I just think it's dumb.
And then you can react to it. I know. It's going to be okay. 10 deep. I don't know how difficult deep breathing is for you right now. We put it one of those doctors. Was it a stethoscope they put on your chest?
Yeah, there you go.
Just hear a bunch of garbage rattling around in your lungs.
Wheezing. Now, he said multiple people he spoke with who track such things used
Everybody
their
slow
one
down.
bold prediction. Let's get to the point
Everybody
here.
slow down. It just seems like there's been some consternation there with Lamar and the Ravens, and this would be the ultimate Mark Davis move, an NFL personnel evaluator said. I'm not even convinced everybody with Vegas would be on board with it, but it would instantly solve their quarterback problems. So, yes, it would instantly solve their quarterback problems. That is the most obvious component of this. And how is this the ultimate Mark Davis move when Mark Davis is more famous for selling off players because they couldn't afford to pay them, as opposed to trading for a quarterback who will probably have a cap hit ballpark $80 million at some point in the near future?
Trying to make
76 next year. So.
Yeah.
They're trying to make Mark Davis Al Davis, I guess.
Well, now they're not poor anymore. Like, this is the benefit of a stadium for a cash-poor organization like the Raiders the Titans aren't cash-poor necessarily, but they're not one of the most affluent ownership groups for certain. The ability to host these kind of premier events in a stadium like Vegas or Nashville in the near future gives you a huge economic boost as an ownership group. So, theoretically, Mark Davis would be able to afford it instead of selling off Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack the way that he did a couple of years ago when the team moved from Oakland to Las Vegas. It seems wildly unlikely that a team with the number 1 overall draft pick and on a collision course to draft a quarterback and a more cost-effective option and who is in desperate need of rebuilding that roster, especially that offensive line, would sell the farm to go get Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it seems dumb. My early indications that this might be dumb were correct. This is dumb.
Yes.
I would also feel so bad for him. I would feel
Lamar?
Yes, going from a place that praises the feet that you walk on and, changes your practice structure, and a place that historically does not do that kind of stuff. And then you go to the Raiders and it's like, have fun trying to be alive, buddy. Like, have fun running for your life.
All right. So let's just go through the predictions, and we will have Robert determine which is the most dumb, because I have a feeling I already know which.
It's this one. Also, doesn't Tom Brady and Fernando Mendoza feel like a match made in heaven?
Yes.
Like
They're
Mendoza,
both football nerds.
the didn't even get an offer from Miami to be a walk-on. Goes to Cal.
Yeah, but he's not drafting him.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It feels like at every turn they're trying to make us think that Tom Brady is a major decision maker in Vegas.
I think that he is, and that's kind of the problem, right?
Yeah.
He was advocating for Chip Kelly, and then Chip Kelly was fired in the season.
So how can you say with any degree of certainty that Tom Brady's not a major voice in the decision to draft Fernando Mendoza?
Sure, it doesn't mean it's a good idea. So, is it dumber, Robert, than the Eagles trading A.J. Brown to the Bills? Lamar Jackson to the Raiders, dumber than A.J. Brown to the Bills?
Lamar Jackson of the Raiders is dumber.
Significantly.
Like,
We're just going to rattle through. All right, then we can give the analysis afterwards.
Okay.
The Falcons going with Kirk Cousins as their starting quarterback. Is that dumber than Lamar Jackson being traded to the Raiders?
That's so much dumber. I think that would be okay.
It's very feasible, I would say.
I mean,
how long did they work together in Minnesota? Cousins and Stefanski?
Impressed.
Malik Willis to the Dolphins or the Browns? Lamar Jackson still dumber.
Yes.
The Colts win the AFC South for the first time since 2014 with no set quarterback situation. I'm inclined to think that that's dumb.
No, Lamar Jackson's dumber.
The Falcons franchise tag Kyle Pitts.
It's like 14, 15 million bucks. That's not bad.
It's not the worst, but he's not a well-rounded player to justify a $14 million spend.
Yeah, but Stefanski's there now. Look what he did with Njoku.
This is a weird one. It just says George Pickens' situation in Dallas gets sticky.
That's hilarious.
Dan Graziano probably wrote that.
Dan Graziano is nowhere near this reporting. It is exclusively under the byline of Jeremy Fowler.
Bold prediction, something controversial happens around George Pickens.
This is the quote.
Very bold.
I just don't see him coming off the season he had, welcoming the tag with open arms, a veteran AFC coach said.
So I wish he would have said, fights the franchise tag or something, like making us read, how dare you?
It's just funny that it says the situation in Dallas gets sticky.
I would say that feels likely.
Yeah. Geno Smith, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kyler Murray are all made available, ... for the New York Jets. I think that likely.
God, that would be like the worst Tubi Heisman House spinoff like you've ever. Like, what do these three guys have in common?
Don't say anything negative about Tubi. Titans fans will come for you. Did any of the three of us watch that, by the way?
The Cam Ward doc?
Yeah.
I did not get around to it.
6-minute episodes.
Really?
No, they were 20, but
Lucas saying I haven't gotten around to it is the definition of
I'm too busy watching Sex and the City.
Getting to it.
No, I'm on a movie kick. I watched 28 Days Later for the first time last night.
Oh, are you trying to work up to Bone Temple?
I'm
The
thinking
newest
about
one?
it, but the fact that Cillian Murphy, like, they don't follow that storyline. Are the other ones good?
Yeah, they're all good.
Okay, because
Bone Temple might be the best.
Really?
And
You
that's,
saw it already?
and that's saying something, yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. It was not what I expected.
Robert Saleh and his potential offensive coordinator connections. We have some additional names that have been listed, but these connections could also be applicable to a potential staff for Robert Saleh. So we will go through a list of names to keep an eye on coming up next.
12 o'clock, good afternoon from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Down studio. I'm Lucas Panzico. We are still waiting on an official announcement from the Titans about Robert Saleh being named the next head coach, and the wait for offensive coordinator candidate Brian Daboll's next move continues as well. He is meeting with the Buffalo Bills today about the head coaching position in Buffalo. Meanwhile, Tom Pelissero of NFL Network has named a few candidates for the Titans' OC job, with Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Adam Stenavich, and Bobby Slowick also reportedly among potential options. MVP finalists have been named in the NFL. They are Matthew Stafford, Drake May, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, and Christian McCaffrey. The MVP will be announced at NFL Honors during Super Bowl week. The Nashville Predators host the Ottawa Senators tonight at Bridgestone Arena. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So we await the latest in Buffalo, where we look at the offensive coordinator situation for the Titans, and I think most Titans fans are actively hoping, wishing, and waiting that Brian Daboll does not get the head coaching job in Buffalo, which would put him in the driver's seat to become the next Titans offensive coordinator. We have since had additional context added as far as backup options, for lack of a better term, should Daboll not be available. Tom Pelissero put this out about 49 minutes ago. The Titans continue to work through offensive coordinator options with Cliff Kingsbury, Arthur Smith, Brian Daboll, Adam Stenavich, and Bobby Slowick among the potential candidates per sources. All have offensive coordinator experience, as Robert Saleh looks for the right man to work with quarterback Cam Ward. Stenavich is the only one who is not actively calling plays among that group. Now, additionally, some reporting done locally by Paul Kaharski, who notes that the Titans are moving on from Denard Wilson and that the assistant coach, Tony Oden, the defensive backs coach, will be retained under Robert Saleh. So Denard Wilson out, Tony Oden, who was recently hired this year as a defensive backs coach, will stay.
Kaharski also reported that John Bones Fossil will remain the special teams coordinator.
That makes sense. So, Bones in, Denard out.
Tony Oden worked under Saleh in New York as the cornerbacks coach and senior defensive assistant as well, and in San Francisco.
Okay, so a little bit of clarity in that situation. And Denard Wilson never made sense to come back. Now, the only interview that I've seen Denard reported for was the Washington Commanders defensive coordinator job, of which no official hire has been made. So I think that with Saleh, you're talking about a different defensive philosophy. Robert and I talked about this last night on primetime. Nobody is fully committing to one kind of defensive system over another anymore. You have versatility in all level of defenses, no matter what your base defense is. But we do know that Robert Saleh uses a good deal of four-man fronts, four-down defensive linemen in a lot of situations, and that would mean some potential one-on-one matchups for Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat, should he kind of realize his potential. So, Denard Wilson out, John Fossil in. Now, I went through on the recommendation, as I mentioned earlier in the show, of somebody much smarter than me, of all the different teams and staffs that Robert Saleh has been on since he entered into the league. Lucas, do you know Robert Saleh's first year in the league as an NFL coach in any capacity?
2006?
2005. He was on the Houston Texans staff as a defensive intern.
I thought he was at Georgia in 05.
In 2005. So, going back through the list of coaches that he has come into contact with since then.
He was at Georgia in 05.
There was a number of notable names that popped up on that 05 Houston Texans staff. Was Greg Roman, who was the quarterback's coach at the time. So some level of crossover with Robert Saleh. He has had many different interactions with guys who have both Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur, and guys who have coached under Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur. So basically the entire coaching tree of those two in some form or fashion, given his extended time with the San Francisco 49ers. He was on the Texans staff, then Seattle, then Jacksonville, then San Francisco, became the head coach of the Jets, then back to San Francisco for a year, most recently, before being named the coach of the Titans. Now, we went through the reported options that Tennessee is exploring by Tom Pelissero, of which he has some connections to, but I do think it's interesting that the top candidates, Brian Daboll and Cliff Kingsbury, do not have a connection to Robert Saleh, at least as far as him being on a staff at the same time as them. Does it matter whether Robert Saleh has a previous working relationship with his next offensive coordinator or not?
No, of course it doesn't. It's not a prerequisite that he has to have worked with someone for them to come in and, have a plan for Cam Ward and be able to take over the offense.
Either Daboll or Cliff Kingsbury would be the most qualified offensive coordinator candidate the Titans have hired since Mike Heimerdinger, as we talked about yesterday. And obviously that's been some time ago. Cliff versus Daboll. If I presented the Titans fans those two options, understanding that there are other options available, would they prefer Daboll or Kingsbury? Both different.
Most would say Daboll, I bet.
Why?
I think.
And I would open it up to the phone, 615-737-1045. You are also welcome to give me your pick and your explanation in the F&M Bank chat, where you can live stream the show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.
Obviously, he got the best out of Josh Allen, but what he did with Daniel Jones, to me, is up there, maybe more impressive than anything Cliff Kingsbury has done with any one particular quarterback. Would need somebody smarter than me to talk about their principles offensively and what might match up better with Cam Ward's skill set between Daboll and Cliff Kingsbury. But you're talking about somebody essentially, as much as we talk about, like with Brian Callahan, when he brought in Denard Wilson, we viewed that as Denard Wilson to come in and be the head coach of the defense, essentially.
Yeah, this would be the inverse of the Brian Callahan experience. You would have your head coach as the defensive guy and your offensive coordinator running that side of the ball.
Brian Daboll comes to mind more to me as a CEO kind of coach than Cliff Kingsbury, to come in and be able to manage the offense.
Why?
I think he had more success as a head coach than Cliff Kingsbury.
But as a CEO.
Yeah.
I don't think Cliff mismanaged anything necessarily. I think that they were just underwhelming. He had one of the best starts that the Cardinals have had at any point in the last 15 years, and they cratered
Then what happened?
spectacularly.
Yeah.
Cratered spectacularly. And the fact that he couldn't get anything out of Kyler Murray, he may have gotten the best out of Kyler Murray that we've seen as a pro.
Cliff Kingsbury, as a head coach, what is his peak as a head coach?
That season where they started like 8-0 and then they pooped themselves.
Yeah, and still kind of eked into the playoffs and were bounced in the wild card round. And we saw it at Texas Tech, too. He was a 6-6 kind of head coach at Texas Tech. 11-6 was the record in 2021, where they had that great start, crashed out in the back end of the regular season, but won enough early to finish second in the division and lose to the Rams in the wild card round. I think Brian Daboll has done a more impressive head coaching job in his career, taking that Giants team with Daniel Jones to the playoffs than anything Cliff Kingsbury has done. Obviously, neither of these guys are coming in to be a head coach, but I don't know. Cliff Kingsbury, I think, has sort of cemented himself. Like, Cliff Kingsbury is not being seriously talked about as a head coaching candidate anywhere.
Well, that's not true. He's getting interviews. He's getting second-round interviews.
Where is he getting a second-round interview?
Didn't he get a second-round interview with Baltimore, Robert, or is that incorrect? Was that just an initial interview?
I'm not sure about the second interview. I mean, he may have gotten a Zoom interview and an in-person interview, which would be a second interview. But
who do you think has a better record as a head coach?
Probably Kingsbury.
It's Cliff.
But
Cliff has a .432 win percentage. Daboll, .336.
Yeah.
Daboll also has public flameouts with an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator that saw both of those people move on. Well, it saw Brian Daboll get fired. Now, I would not describe that as CEO-like behavior. I don't necessarily care about it if you're an offensive coordinator and you're not running the show. But he got into it with Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale ended up quitting. He got into it with Mike Kafka. He ended up getting fired over that fight with Mike Kafka in some form or fashion, also being 20-40 as a head coach. Kingsbury, again, not much better, but 28-37 is Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah,
in about the same amount of time.
Yeah, that 11-6, 2021.
Yeah.
Props
5-10, 8-8, 11-6, 4-13. Daboll, 9-7, 9-7, 6-11, 3-14, 2-8. So, I mean, again, on paper is not everything, but the argument is weakened if you're trying to tell me that Brian Daboll was a better head coach than Cliff Kingsbury was.
Yeah, but like you said the same thing about Matt Nagy and Robert Saleh, right? I feel like we're capable of looking at more context than just what the record is on paper.
Well, no, I'm not moved off that Matt Nagy position.
That you think Matt Nagy's a better coach than Robert Saleh?
He is a better coach than Robert Saleh.
He has a better record than Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was a better coach than Robert Saleh.
So we're not capable of viewing through the lens of any other context.
No, the context is important. Okay. He was a better coach in a bad situation than Robert Saleh was in a bad situation. Now, again, we don't know Woody Johnson meddling in the Jets stuff and not paying officials and things like that and all the quirkiness of Woody Johnson. We know the Bears were not an overwhelmingly well-run organization either. But for two bad organizations, one guy was better than the other guy.
So now the Titans should have hired Matt Nagy to you.
No, I'm just saying.
But Matt Nagy's a better coach to Robert Saleh.
Yes.
So they shouldn't have hired the better coach.
I don't know what Robert Saleh is going to be like without an offensive coordinator. Right now, we don't know who the offensive coordinator is. You can't tell me definitively that that Robert Saleh is going to be a better head coach than Matt Nagy without an offensive coordinator.
I don't know that. You're just confusing sometimes, that's all.
It's not confusing at all. Matt Nagy was a better coach than Robert Saleh was. It's not confusing at all.
But Matt Nagy shouldn't have been the hire.
I would not have had a problem with it. I know Titans fans and I differ on this situation. I would not have had a problem with it. And by the way, there are plenty of indications to think that Mike Borgonzi wouldn't have had that big of a problem with it either. I don't think we were that far away from that actually being a thing.
Of course we weren't. They were the two finalists.
Yeah. So I would say that you are trying to make an argument based on semantics that is not actually that big of a difference. So, I don't know who Titans fans would pick between Cliff Kingsbury and Brian Daboll because their records as head coaches does not mean that one is a better offensive coordinator than the other. I don't know that Cliff is a better offensive coordinator than Brian Daboll. We have seen Cliff be a better offensive coordinator more recently than we have Brian Daboll, for what it's worth. And Jaden Daniels' injury ultimately undid them this year in Washington. Speaking of Washington, Nate Washington will join us coming up next. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you right now because if you've been procrastinating, seeking help for your performance issues, you're probably just making the situation worse. Your relationships, your confidence, and even your career may have already been affected. Online folks promise convenience and discretion, but their treatments are generic and some even unsafe. Guys, no more excuses. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is the state's first men's health-focused urology practice with multiple urologists and providers focused solely on male performance. No unproven snake oil or peptides without solid research. Since 2014, they've pioneered men's health in Tennessee and have been testing and growing to make sure you get the best care and the safest, most effective treatment. Call 615-208-9090 right now. That's 615-208-9090 or book online in under 30 seconds at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. The best hot chicken in the world. 615-737-1045 is the number. We await Nate Washington, who will give his thoughts on the hiring of Robert Saleh and who he thinks makes the most sense for a Titans offensive coordinator situation around Cam Ward. I don't know. Would you like to spend any additional time trying to flesh out your confusion? Because I'm very confused as to why you're confused about my position.
You're just funny, that's all.
What's funny about it?
Matt Nagy is a better coach than Robert Saleh to you because his record is better than Robert Saleh's, which it is. Right?
Matt Nagy was a better head coach than Robert Saleh was, not just because of their record.
Sure.
He did a better job. He had a better overall record. He had more success across the board. He has a better track record of direct quarterback development, of course, which is the priority here.
But Matt Nagy, you don't believe would have been a better candidate here than Robert Saleh.
I didn't say that.
You didn't say that you don't believe.
I don't know what that means. You didn't say that you don't believe.
I don't know what
you're trying to get across.
I don't know what you're trying to get across,
You are
buddy.
talking yourself into 6 different circles. Thank God Nate Washington is here to straighten things out. I don't know, Nate. Would you have preferred a certain candidate? They hired Robert Saleh, and we'll get your thoughts on Robert Saleh here in just a second. But would you have had a preference as far as some of the names that you saw out there before the Titans ultimately made a decision?
Not necessarily a specific guy, but it was more so the characteristics. I will say it was quite funny getting in here and hearing you and Lucas going back and forth a little bit.
It's our entire lives, bud. It's the longest relationship I've ever been with, and it shows. God knows we need a relationship counselor in here at some point.
I love it, though. I love it. That's what you guys need. You need to be able to, throw ideas off of each other. And I think that's exactly what the Titans did here. I think they've learned from the past of going out and investing themselves into coordinators that really didn't have any foundation of where they were headed with the identity of their team. And I think they learned from that. As I stated last time I was on the show, there was key characteristics that I was looking for. I wanted an experienced coach that came from a successful coaching tree. I wanted a physical, blue-collar, work ethic mentality. I wanted a guy that was able to adjust and the ability to allow his coaching staff to be able to support him in the proper way. And last and foremost, I wanted a guy that was relatable, a guy that would be relatable to the locker room and understand connecting with the players is important. And I think that's exactly what they found in Saleh. I know his tenure with the Jets was pretty I think it was unhappy there, but at the same time, when you look at his situation that he was in with his quarterback position alone, it was a tight situation to be in such a huge market. So coming into this situation, I think he has a better understanding of how to lead this team and what's going to be best of building their foundation for the years to come. And I'm excited about them having a football guy in their organization now. I think that was, I know we kind of talk about Vrabel kind of often, and we see the things that he's been doing here lately. But above all of the things that Vrabel's good at, he's a football guy. He's through and through football, and I think that's the same thing you get with Saleh.
So the thing that I'm a little maybe too fixated on right now, Nate, because we're just waiting for we're waiting for the team to announce him officially, and that announcement is expected at some point today, and the press conference for later in the week, because for people who are asking about the press conference out there in the audience, he has a prior family commitment, Robert Saleh. They had to schedule around it, so he will have the press conference next week because he wants his family to be in attendance for the press conference, understandably so. Also, the man has 8 children, which is ridiculous to me. I don't know who you that may be a qualification to be a football coach anyway, if you have to manage 8 little ones. That sounds like an absolute insanity. The part of this that I'm a little fixated on, Nate, until they name an offensive coordinator, is I never found out what Robert Saleh's offensive identity was as a head coach because of how poorly the situation was managed in New York at the time. They traded away Sam Darnold for the right to draft Zach Wilson. Both of those things. And again, Sam Darnold may have been a good decision at the time. It took Sam Darnold, how many more stops? Like 3 more stops before he turned into the guy that we see now in front of us in Seattle. Zach Wilson may have failed no matter who his offensive coaching staff was, but we know that Zach Wilson was not helped by the situation in New York. So I have no evidence that Robert Saleh, beyond whatever plan he pitched to the Titans that they found acceptable, has a definitive offensive identity until we know who that coordinator is going to be, which is just kind of a waiting game at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I think, when you have, not the guy in that position at the time as he was with the Jets, I think it makes it a lot harder because your identity in itself is all the way up in the air, right? You don't know which direction you want to go with your offense, especially when you're a defensive coordinator being hired as a head coach. You're relying on an offensive coordinator to come in there and set the foundation for your offense. But when you don't have a quarterback that solidifies that foundation for your offensive side of the ball, it's difficult. You don't know whether you want to be a spread offense, an RPO offense, or a physical I-back type of offense. I know fullbacks are very, very selected in the league today, but there's only maybe like 2 or 3 left on the rosters that are across the league. But, there's a situation in itself where you're kind of stuck. You don't know exactly which direction you want to go. But I think it'll be a lot better with Cam. I think this situation with Cam being here, understanding what he's capable of, understanding the position of this receiving room, I think that this team has no choice but to bank his hat on, being a physical run-first offense, And with that being said, you have options out there that are sustainable coaches that understand that philosophy and ride that philosophy themselves first. I think it's going to be important not only for them to find the identity for this offense, but to find a valuable leader to direct Cam in the probable way of growing through this league, slowing these defenses down for him, understanding how to read blitzes and defenses that are going to try to stop him and his ability. So I think that'll be secondary. But first and foremost, I think the Titans are a lot more set up in their prediction of what they would be as an offense moving forward. This has to be a physical run-first offense that's good in the play-action game and has some guys that be able to make big plays down the field, but not relying on a receiver core that has yet to put a guy out there that can show leadership and be a wide receiver number 1 for them.
At NWash85 is where you follow him. His book is Football Was My Father is the title of the book. You can find it in the Amazon bookstore. Published author and Titans legend Nate Washington here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
Nate, we've talked about this with you before, but now that it's official, the Titans have a head coach from a defensive background, the type of profile of coach that you played for multiple times, whether Mike Tomlin or Jeff Fisher, and understanding those guys sort of approach the job in different ways from a CEO perspective. But what did you, as an offensive skill player, enjoy about playing for a defensive-minded head coach in the NFL?
I hate to say it this way because it's so stereotypical, but in the same sense, defensive coaches are a lot more passionate. They are enthusiastic. They connect with the players a lot better. Their philosophy is always blue-collar, hard-working guys. And a lot of times they don't mind jumping in that pit and picking up a pitchfork and helping those guys dig that ditch if need be. It's whatever is going to help the team. Those guys are a lot more vulnerable to go out and adjust and work with the team, no matter who the players are or who the coaching staff is. And I just think those guys are better for teams. A lot of times when you get offensive guys that come in, they're so stuck on their philosophy. They're so stuck in their idea of how they want to run things that when adversity comes, it's hard for them to adjust, not only play calling wise, but, just with rosters and adjust with schemes, and those things are necessary. You can't go into these seasons with thinking that you're just going to be able to go out and dominate your philosophy or your scheme, because a lot of times it doesn't work. I think a lot of people have to understand, obviously the other teams, the other coaches, the other players are getting paid as well too. And they're going out to do a job, which is to stop you as an offense. And I think a lot of times offensive coordinators or offensive guys that are hired as head coaches, they really don't know how to adjust because they're so caught in the belief of their philosophy and scheme. So I'm excited about having a defensive coordinator because, as you stated, playing for Coach Fisher, playing for Coach Tomlin, as well as they might not have known the offensive side of the ball like some of the gurus that have, are deemed offensive coordinators throughout this league. I think they also understand that the first and foremost identity that you have to have is being physical. You don't want to go out and be, that soft offense that's always relying on the pass and the big plays, because those things are, in all honesty, luck in a lot of cases. So you want to have a foundation that you're able to always go to, and a lot of times that's ground and pound. The physical game of the run game is always going to be a solid foundation for any offense, and to have a coach, and be enthusiastic about those guys up front, understand they're necessary. understand that nothing happens without that front five of that offensive line is going to be necessary. And I think a lot of defensive coaches understand that off the bat.
What are you looking for as a player in those first few meetings with the new head coach, whether it's one-on-one, team meetings, position rooms? What are you looking for in terms of the foundation that he's going to lay, those first impressions in those first couple of interactions with the new head coach?
Well, I've been seeing clips of, teams meetings and speeches that Saleh has given to, the organization with the Jets, and a couple clips that have been flying around on social media. And those type of things are important. It's away from the X and the O's. You get guys that might be able to come in, young guys that want to come in and meet with the head coach and understand what they want to do with them, personally, and moving forward with their personal success with the organization. But in this specific situation, if I was in the shoes of a guy in that locker room and being a veteran, you want to have an idea of a guy that you connect to, a guy that understands the path and the road that you've paved in order to, put your time in and your stint in the NFL. It's not necessarily about you. It's about the team success and the idea of how to get the team there. Being able to connect with the coach, is important. I had seen a recent interview from an ex-teammate of mine, Willie Colon, that was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he talked about Mike Tomlin's ability to always be there connecting with the players and not to be a guy that's in the ivory tower as we're standing down on the ground level looking up trying to approach him. Mike Tomlin was always a guy on ground level willing to work with you. And I think that's the most important thing. You get guys that come in with egos and attitudes that, they always say that they can replace you, but you want a guy that understands your value. You want a guy that understands the team value and is focused on that and understanding what's going to take to get that team to the next level while also connecting to you personally. So I think those are going to be huge things. Like I said, characteristic is important right now. Personality is important, and it's bigger than the X and the O's. You can tell a guy all day that you can put him in position to be successful, but it's up to that player. So I think it's important that he focuses on personally connecting with this staff and whatever staff he builds, and these players that are in the locker room right now to understand that he's in this thing with them to make sure this organization is successful.
Nate Washington with us. You spent some time in New England on the back end of your career in 2016, kind of leading up to the 2016 season. If you didn't get many impressions of him, no worries. But obviously Brian Daboll is a candidate here to be the offensive coordinator if he's not the Bills head coach. Did you have any interactions with Brian Daboll as he was the tight ends coach in New England during some of the months that you spent there?
Luke, I'm glad you did that research, buddy, because actually me and Coach Daboll will walk out to practice on the practice fields from the locker room together a lot, just me and him, one-on-one conversations. He would ask me everything from my background in Toledo. He was asking me, my experience. We've had, me and him personally, I literally have had multiple conversations, walking out to the practice field. And what I know from the conversations personally is he's very in tune to understanding his guys, understanding what way to connect with them, to push them to their greatness. I think he's very good in understanding player personnel, what guys are capable of and what they're not capable of, and putting them in position to succeed. I know he was just a tight ends coach at the time, but he understood what rosters look like. Those conversations, obviously now being in this position that he's a candidate for our offensive coordinator here in Tennessee, I think were imperative for my knowledge of understanding what type of person he was. He was very connecting. He was very personable. He understood that, this game can be a lot of ups and downs, but connecting with a guy personally is important to get the best out of them. And I seen that every day from walking out to practice with Coach Daboll. I remember days where we didn't have conversations and walking out. It felt kind of funny starting practice without him, me personally. So it'd be interesting to see what the Titans do here, what he's able to do with the Bills head coaching possibility. But, I'm very much hoping that this is a situation where he lands with Tennessee because I know he'll be great for this offense.
Nate Washington, always great for Titans fans to learn a little bit more about the NFL and things that are going on from the player's perspective at NWash85 is where you can follow him, where I could not recommend him more. It's one of the best Twitter follows, both from an insight standpoint and just for a pure comedy standpoint. Nate's got a good sense of humor, which we greatly appreciate. Mike McCarthy in Pittsburgh. Are you interested?
To be honest with you, no.
Okay.
No, not at all. I have a ton of respect for Mike McCarthy. I think he's had an illustrious career. I think he did some great things, both with the Packers organization and with the Cowboys organization. But in all honesty, I think we've seen his ceiling. I think we've seen his ability and what he's capable of and what he brings to an organization. And I think that's what we just let go. We let go of a 9-8 guy that was able to win, and be a winner of a coach throughout his tenure with the Titans, but was unable to get over the hump of the first round of the playoffs here the past 3, 4, 5 years in Pittsburgh. And I think, with McCarthy, that's exactly what you'll be hiring. Another guy that will give you a winning season and get to the first round of the playoffs and not be successful. I hate to say it because, it's hard to predict those things, but exactly, what we see is what we get, and as I look at, his hometown presence with him being in Pittsburgh, I know there will be a large energy, not only from the fan base, but from the organization and having a Pittsburgh guy back in that organization. But I think when you look at the possibilities of the candidates that are possible right now, I think you just have a better opportunity with those guys. I think they've been looking at Shula and Shieldhouse from the Rams. You're looking at Brian Flores. You're looking at Anthony Weaver from the Miami Dolphins. And I think those guys with the possibility of head coaching tenures and what they bring to the table, I think they will renew energy of the Steelers that will take them back to the promised land of the Lombardi, and I think that's more of the focus that they should have rather than hiring a familiar face with a familiar resume that they're comfortable with. I think there's just comfortability there with Mike McCarthy, and I understand it. But in order for the Steelers to get back to what they're used to, which is success and reaching for that Lombardi, I think you're going to have to reach for a young up-and-coming guy that, has energy to promote that organization back to the pedestal that they once were on.
Conference championship weekend in the NFL, Nate. You've got the quarterbackless. Jarrett Stidham is going to quarterback the Broncos, but we understand that Bo Nix suffering a fractured ankle in the divisional round is as big a talking point heading into this weekend as any. You've got the Broncos hosting the Patriots, who I don't know, maybe they just got lucky that C.J. Stroud melted down as badly as he did again in a second consecutive playoff game, which is concerning for Houston on the AFC side of things. And then on the NFC side, you get another NFC West rematch between the Rams and the Seahawks. Starting in the AFC, Nate, understanding that Jarrett Stidham is going to be quarterbacking, this is like the as visceral a definition of next man up as a team could possibly have. Fair to expect that Sean Payton is just going to try and run his offense. It's just going to be a different quarterback under center in this particular situation.
Well, I think, when you look at the situation with the Denver Broncos, I think the good thing is with the guy, when they had Bo Nix there, it wasn't really a system quarterback. He was more so a playmaker. He would break contain. He would do the things that he needed to do, and he would make great passes. Don't get me wrong, but, when you're playing quarterback in the NFL, I think your arm is the general expectation of what you're able to do. I think the ability to have an IQ of sustained offense that you're in is going to be most important. And when you look at that situation, I think that's exactly what you get when you have a Stidham coming in under Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton will do exactly what you said. He'll run his offense, and he'll expect him to come in and do exactly what is expected of him, of reading the offense exactly the way Sean teaches him. So I think, especially obviously when you look at the Nick Foles situation with Carson Wentz in Philadelphia, and that situation of playing in the Super Bowl, it's never ideal that you want to play in those big moments with your backup quarterback, but I think it's possible, and the situation, as I stated, with the Broncos offense and how they were set up scheme wise, I don't think you're going to be asking much of Jarrett coming in replacing Bo. I think you're just going to ask him to come in and be good of not turning the ball over, hitting the open guys, making the proper reads. And I think backup quarterbacks can do that, you know. So I think there's still a strong possibility, especially with a head coach like Sean Payton, of them coming out and playing good ball that will promote them on to the Super Bowl. But it's going to be up to how the rest of this team supports the backup quarterback and shows up in the run game. The receivers obviously are going to have to make some big plays, and that defense is going to have to be lights out with a high-octane Patriots offense right now.
I don't know if there's a better example of coaches coaching against other coaches than McVay versus McDonald this weekend. A defensive play-calling head coach against an offensive play-calling head coach. Two guys who are obviously very familiar with each other, given their the nature of their divisional rival. That's about as fun as the tactics of football, I imagine, Nate, can get.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that game. I think that Rams and Seahawks game will be a bomb burner. You know, I think both sides have been doing amazing jobs, as you stated, with, you know, the Seahawks defense and the Rams offense has been amazing. But, you know, retrospectively, when you look at it, you know, the defense of the Rams has also been playing good while the Seahawks offense has been playing well. You know, as you stated, Sam has taken some years to come along, but I think he's finally arrived. And with him and Jackson Smith and Jigba and, you know, Kenny Walker has come along here at the late end of this season, because I had him on fantasy and he didn't do too good at the beginning of the season. But, you know, he's definitely exploded on the scene this late part of the season and into these playoffs, and he's been doing great things in the run game. So I think we're looking forward to a fully on fight with these two organizations. Obviously, both special teams are been significant as well. So I think it's definitely going to be brain against brain. You know, which guy is going to execute and find the offensive and defensive scheme for both sides of their team to go out and be successful against each other. But, you know, I think it's going to be a great game between the Seahawks and Rams.
It's always a great time when Nate Washington visits with us. You can check out the book, Football Was My Father, in the Amazon bookstore. You can keep your eye on his social channels at NWash85 for book signing announcements that he is doing with the new book. And we're always grateful for your presence, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, fellas. I'll see you next week, man.
That is Nate Washington with us on 104.5 The Zone. All right, Robert, you ready to roast my end-of-season NFL award ballot?
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll do it next. All right. Let's put a bow on it. Last call for phone calls if you got them. Lucas was just saying that he felt like this week had dragged on forever. It's because you worked more than Robert and I did all week long. I've had a wonderful week. Feels like it's gone by in a flash. That's my favorite part of football season is how quickly the weeks between games go. So that's what this week felt like to me. Robert obviously dealing with, I don't want to say that you've had norovirus because it's not confirmed norovirus, but we are speculating, recklessly speculating that is what has bogged you down.
Yeah, we can go with that.
What makes you more sick, the norovirus or the ballot that I sent you about my end-of-season awards?
You didn't do as bad as I thought you would do. Now, I'm also thinking that you did not take this test with one of those college programs that we had to do where it locked your computer screen and you just had to answer them and you weren't allowed to use external tools. I feel like you did do a little digging because when I look and see that you not only listed as your number one guard or your number two guard, Quinn Miners, I don't think you would have been able to name him without the assistance of PFF.
Yeah, Buck famously cannot name 5 guards.
No, you famously cannot name 5 guards.
Name 5
I
guards.
did that exercise, and I won. I've already done it. I don't have to prove
most
myself.
definitely did not. It didn't even come. What did that even come from? Why did we?
I don't know.
Someone called in talking about offensive linemen, like don't get enough love. Like offensive linemen don't get the credit they deserve. And you went on this rant against this caller, calling them stupid, saying that's idiotic, that they get as much shine as any other position.
I think you lie more than Robert per capita.
And then we said, name 5 guards, and you maybe got 3.
I definitely got 5. No, my argument was they're paid $20 million a year. The people who have to know the guards understand which guards are important and which aren't.
No, I don't think that was his point.
So, how do you want to go about this? You want me to read my ballot and you go through what your issues with?
Yeah, let's go to through the awards first, and then if we have some times, we'll go to the individual. First, are you allowed to do this? I know some awards do not want you to divulge your ballot.
I don't think anybody will bat an eye.
I think it's going to be okay. I think he's right on that.
Okay, give us give us your rundown. And I guess me and Lucas could just go agree or disagree, and if we disagree, we can figure out where we disagree at.
Okay. So, for MVP, Matt Stafford.
Yep.
Agreed.
Offensive Player of the Year, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I'd go McCaffrey.
That's a fair argument.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, I would probably also go JSN, but I would listen to either argument.
Depoy, Myles Garrett.
Very easy, yes.
Rookie of the Year, across the board. So this is just Rookie of the Year. There is a separate offensive and defensive Rookie of the Year. My Rookie of the Year was Carson Schlesinger, the linebacker for the Browns.
In a perfect world, I don't disagree with you. In the world that we live in, I would go Ted McMillan. Started every game his rookie year, was extremely competent, especially coming off an offseason where people were questioning his love of football. Played like a top 10 pick. I would have went Ted McMillan. I'm not upset that you went Carson Schlesinger.
Yeah, either one is good.
My argument for Schlesinger is he was one of the best linebackers in football, bar none. Not one of the best rookies.
McMillan, 1,000-yard receiver on a team with not a ton of receiving options.
Schlesinger kind of reminds me of Chris Borland. Remember, he was like a phenom rookie for the 49ers and then just
he retired.
Medically
quickly.
Retired.
Yeah.
Comeback Player of the Year, he wasn't listed on like the finalists for the NFL, but I put Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I feel like to come back, you have to stay back. He didn't finish the year, so I probably would have went. I don't even know who was up for this. Like Hutchinson.
Dak is up for this. Trevor Lawrence is up for this. McCaffrey is up for this.
I wouldn't hate McCaffrey, but I also feel like he's probably won this award 17 times.
There's not a slam dunk.
I would have probably went Aiden Hutchinson. The dude got injured, missed all of last year in October, and then came back and had a career high of like 13.5 or 14.5 sacks.
How is he not a finalist?
He is a finalist.
Oh, okay.
He is a finalist. Most Improved Player of the Year, Drake May.
Easy. Very easy.
Coach of the Year, Kyle Shanahan.
I probably would have still went Vrabel, but you've made your reasoning for Shanahan. Like, I wouldn't have a problem if Shanahan won this.
The logic that won it for Mike in 21 is the logic that I voted by Shanahan.
Yeah,
this year.
that's fair. I'd go Vrabel because I thought the Patriots were going to be a 5-win football team.
Yeah. Executive of the Year, James Gladstone, the Jags' new general manager.
Brandon Bean?
I don't hate that because
According to your boy, your boy Pagula.
Terry Pagula definitely voted for Brandon Bean.
Because it's all encompassing, right? It's not just the draft; it's free agency. It's changing the team around. I don't hate that because they were picking in the top 5 in the draft and came around and ended up being a playoff team. So I don't have a problem with that.
I would like to change my assistant coach of the year because for some reason, I guess I just
To Josh McDaniels.
I would change
Robert
it to Josh
Saleh.
McDaniels. I voted for.
For the same argument of coach of the year because all of his players were hurt. Yes, great
Yes.
point.
Only
Lucas.
Kyle Shanahan gets credit for that.
Great point, Lucas. I would go with Robert Saleh as well.
Vance Joseph is who I voted for on my ballot.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all.
We don't have to go through the first team and.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah,
you
we
really
do.
want to?
Yeah, we do.
That
This
seems-
is where the men
The
are
nitty-gritty.
separated from the boys. We got 3
The
minutes.
chaff from the wheat.
All right, so it's not NFC or AFC. It's just by position. I'll do the offense quickly. Quarterback Matthew Stafford, running backs Derrick Henry, James Cook, wide receivers Puka Nacua and JSN, tight end Trey McBride, center Aaron Brewer, guard Chris Lindstrom and Quinn Meinertz, tackles Penei Sewell and Tristan Wirfs.
I understand you went Aaron Brewer probably because of your familiarity with him and him turning him into, like, per PFF, one of the best centers in football.
Yeah.
I would have went with Bears center Drew Dahlman, who they got in free agency.
Had a good year.
Solidified their offensive line.
Defense, Myles Garrett, Will Anderson, Jeffrey Simmons, Cam Hayward, Byron Young and Micah Parsons, Fred Warner, Devin Witherspoon, Quinyon Mitchell, Kyle Hamilton, Jalen Petrie.
Cam Hayward's old ass. Get him out of here.
He was good, though.
Yeah, I probably would have put you put Will Anderson as a defensive end. I probably would have had him over Byron Young and would have ended up putting Leonard Williams at defense.
Yeah, I didn't like the way that they split up the D ends and the outside linebackers this year.
Hayward will probably try to leverage this into another contract.
Yeah, well,
Because his family is starving, remember?
well, his brother's also getting paid, so they're getting double paid.
He's a
technically.
fullback. And then special teamers, Brandon Aubrey, Austin McNamara, the Jets punter, Cavante Turpin, Chimere Dike, and Daniel Hardy for special teamers.
Cam Little, dude.
Who does Daniel Hardy play for? Yeah,
that was a quick Google by you.
I need to go back and find that.
he plays for the Bears.
I'd go Cam Little.
Is he the
Was he the
defensive
Pro Bowl?
back for the Bears?
Was he the Pro Bowl recipient for special teams player? of the
No,
year?
I think I PFF'd my way through special teams.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I wouldn't have been able to pick one either.
Yeah.
So
Cam Little set the number 1 and 2 records in NFL history for longest field goal, and his percentage was better than Brandon Aubrey. So I'd go Cam Little as kicker there.
Not a bad argument.
Yeah.
They're both awesome. They're both ridiculous. The Cowboys kicker and the Jags kicker.
all in all, not terrible.
Not
Who did you have as guard? Who were his guards?
Meinertz and Lindstrom, the Falcons guard.
Just the only 2 guards he knew.
Okay, we're watching you. Those were good picks, but I feel like PFF told you that.
Maybe so.
100%. No doubt.
Don't make me laugh.
Honest to God, I looked at contracts. I was like, all right, who's making the most money at guard? Let me start there.
Robert Hunt for the Panthers was pretty good. Or the guy, Damian Lewis, maybe is who I'm thinking of. They signed from Seattle, was pretty good.
Well, next year, maybe I'll just let you fill out my ballot.
Okay, cool. I love that. I will vote the stinkiest ballot that has ever been stomped.
We did do polls today, but we don't have time. So if we had done the polls, who would they have been presented by, Lucas?
Two Rivers Ford, I believe.
The South's most trusted Ford dealer. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll do a prime time tonight. Potentially there will be some offensive coordinator revelations. Tune in and find out.